Yeah, I hear him chat from the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls better tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. We take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. Yeah, I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Not so tough, but mans keep walking. Yeah, just too sharp with the prize. White girls better tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
I'm curious because I'm sure that everyone listening to this understands the feeling that I'm about to express right now. And it's a feeling that you can't control. When I'm watching Lions in Washington going into that game, in my head, unemotionally attached, I'm like, man, it'd be really nice for Detroit to feel good for a while about its football since it hasn't happened in my lifetime.
Right.
To feel like they have a legitimate chance and they got the bye. And generally speaking, if you've got the bye, you win that football game. Just I don't know whether it's a 70 or an 80% clip, but it's pretty surprising for Washington to go into Detroit and be able to do that as a 9.5-point dog, a rookie quarterback to become, win 2 road games now and is the best rookie quarterback since, we got to say, Marino, right? We've already got to say that in terms of impact as a rookie, you're not supposed to learn the position this way. In college, this guy somehow averaged 10 yards a play, a first down a play at LSU, and now just ransacked a Detroit team that had the most hope of any in my lifetime. But what surprised me about Saturday night is I switched allegiances quick, and I went to rooting against the Lions and then laughing at the Lions fan base, and I had no control over what it is that was happening to me. It just happened.
You became a commie.
That's what happened.
Yeah. Huh.
I didn't have this in this America. I became a commie.
Huh.
On Saturday night.
Interesting.
Because this makes me, to hate the Lions, to hate this Lions team. Dan Campbell, you're really going to do the trick plays? They don't look cute. When all you have to do is have Goff not be Goff, we knew he was going to be Goff. We knew at some point you were going to get Goffed. And were you guys with me on laughing at Detroit, or did you feel bad for Detroit?
I was laughing at Detroit ahead of time because I didn't understand. There are about 4 franchises in that league where nothing good will ever happen to them.
Yep.
And for them to be consensus favorites to go to the Super Bowl, really, the Detroit Lions favorite, we expect the Detroit Lions and their fans to feel joy. Like, hold on. Like, let's temper our expectations just a little bit. We still have to see it. And also, I know they made it to an NFC championship game, but this core, I don't know if that's enough suffering. Certainly, the franchise and the fan base has suffered plenty. Don't get me wrong. But, more obstacles. Jaden Daniels is a really good quarterback. I was just really confused as to why that franchise and its fans were so confident.
So you need more suffering from Lions fans and for the Lions organization because they haven't suffered enough.
I need the amount of suffering around this core of Lions players for them to go into a big game and not be sure.
Right.
And they walked into that game sure.
Are the Commanders not also a suffering fan base?
Yes.
So do you not feel good for them?
Yeah, but the Commanders had a run in the 80s and 90s that most fans of any organization would take. I would take that run.
The Commies hadn't won a playoff game since 2006.
Yeah.
They've now won 2 on the road, and he's threatening to do something, Stugotz. I mean, to ransack a league by surprise. You're 2 wins away. I don't expect them to win in Philadelphia either, but that was a slop football game, and Philadelphia and Buffalo were ready to give away those games at the end. Like, both of those games were ready to go. When I want to get back to Detroit in a second, but I want to, since we were talking about the Buffalo and the Raven game, because I want to talk about Mark Andrews, to have your excellence, Bill Buckner, like that. Mark Andrews has more touchdowns than anyone in the history of that franchise. That franchise has been really good.
Yeah.
For him to have a Bill Buckner moment where, you're going to remember that he should have caught that, when I keep arguing on behalf of Stugotz, and I know Mike and others tell me that I'm soft for doing it. Man, it's got to be hard to catch a hard, slick football in the cold. Like, that's an unplayed.
It's your job,
I know,
man.
Especially when it's not totally on the money.
I know.
When it's not totally on the money.
I know. But I want to.
How about Harbaugh? Drop a new 2-point conversion play.
Yeah.
Every single time is the exact same play. I don't know if it's worked once.
It's not a stoppable play.
It is very stoppable. It's been stopped every single time he's done it. I don't think he succeeded at once. I saw 3 different examples of when it was stopped. It hasn't worked one time. Drop a new play. How about give it to Derrick Henry and have him just run it right up the gut?
Yeah,
That's a good plan.
Fine.
Yeah.
He's
huge.
That is a plan. Yes, he is huge.
Hard to tackle, Dan.
You want the MVP with options. Is better than Derrick Henry one option.
That's a pretty good option.
Agreed.
MVP.
Agreed.
Ridiculous.
But okay.
Ever heard of Isaiah Likely? It's because
man.
Mark Andrews sucks now.
The reigning MVP. The reigning.
He
MVP.
might actually win a third, which means he has as many MVPs as postseason wins.
Yeah.
Yes, he's got. This is an interesting thing. Okay, because he's got, in a league you cannot do this anymore. He's got multiple turnover games. Half of his playoff games are multiple turnover games. And when I say you can't do this anymore, Stugotz, the winning team in the playoffs that we just saw this weekend threw for an average of 166 yards.
Mm-hmm.
What's changing in that sport is, no, that's fine. We'll play it in a tiny, tiny phone booth, but our quarterback will not give it up. C.J. Stroud will get sacked 8 times because there'll be pressure up the middle, but our quarterback will not be turning the ball over. In fact, Patrick Mahomes' worst season of his life we're seeing right now. This is the worst statistical season of his life. You want to guess how many 300-yard games he has?
2.
3.
What?
3 all season. He's got 3 300-yard games. Patrick Mahomes has been mediocre and has double-digit turnovered it. But this is what I wanted to tell you about the Bills and why I think the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl, even though they are a team. Why would they ever expect good things to happen to them, right? The Bills are.
Yeah, they're one of those 4.
They're one of the teams, yes.
Well, who are the 4, by the way?
But they've done so much suffering.
Well, it's the Jets, it's the
Browns, Lions,
yeah,
Bills.
Yeah. I mean, the Bills they've been to 4 Super Bowls.
Yeah, but and then what happened?
You lose all of them.
Yeah.
Stugotz, Notre Dame season's not going to be remembered.
You can't win
That's
it
a
unless
shame,
you get
'cause
there,
it
Dan.
really
I'll never
should.
forget it.
Yeah, it really should be remembered.
Yeah, it should.
Man, there's so many football storylines. I want to take that one now.
You don't remember second place. You don't remember it. Like Notre Dame
Sometimes
fans,
you
no,
do.
No.
Canes, Ohio
Wait,
State.
are we letting Lamar off the hook?
Look,
Because an opposing quarterback scored more than 14 points and then he's done so?
I'm going to go back there in a second.
Terrible.
No, the thing that I want to talk about, because it's in the weeds a little bit on football, but to me it's fascinating because we spend the whole season trying to get to a metric that tells us who's best. 1-game samples, we understand some of them in the snow. You tell me the importance of coaching and coaching and coaching and coaching, and largely, at the end, it was all the best quarterbacks. Largely, Sam Darnold became Sam Darnold, Jared Goff became Jared Goff. Everyone's still terrified of Stafford. You're lucky to beat him with Hurts and a $122 in passing because he doesn't turn the ball over, and Philadelphia will just run straight at you. And like that, the way that team plays is crazy.
Yes.
Like in the modern age, to beat you 50 yards at a time with Saquon Barkley because Lane Johnson is just bigger than everybody. But to have the Buffalo Bills advance to now a game that is the weakest Chiefs team, even though it's only lost twice.
How do they keep getting away with this?
What's going on
The
here?
weakest Chiefs team that we have seen in the Mahomes era, and certainly the weakest offense that we have seen in the Mahomes era. What Buffalo takes into that, and Stugotz, I want you to help me examine this because it legitimately is something I do not understand and have not seen. A quarterback who was wildly inaccurate coming out of college and unbelievably reckless with the football has become now a quarterback who we haven't had in the league since 1970, because that's the last time you'll find somebody who fumbled as little and threw as few interceptions and took as few sacks, negative plays from a quarterback, as this one. Josh Allen has become the greatest protector of the football in the sport. This is an offense that is historic in protecting the football at a time everyone's protecting the football. Why'd you beat the Ravens at home even though you hadn't lost at home all season? They turned it over, and you did not. That was the difference between those two teams, both of which we know can be Super Bowl winners, both of which we'd all acknowledge, yes, those are two teams that are good. Baltimore was favored in that game. Buffalo hasn't lost a game at home all season, and everyone saw, no, that's the number one defense. Against the number one defense since week 11, Josh Allen can be trusted to not turn the ball over. Get out of here. Like, how is not everybody in the world talking about, you know what the difference in that sport is? All the analysis, all of it. That quarterback doesn't make mistakes. How? Like
you're confused by this.
How can I not be? I said he was terrible at football.
I think what the Bills have done, I mean, he threw the ball 22 times. They're not putting him in spots where he's going to turn the ball over. Like the offense, it's kind of like he's been, it's kind of like a game manager. Like it's time of possession. It's take as much time. It's keep the other quarterback off the field. And Josh Allen is not throwing 45 times a game to win.
The reason it's not game management is because you're still terrified of them on 3rd and 11.
Well, of course you are.
But that's what I'm saying.
But that's why he's so great.
Game management with Alex Smith, you weren't terrified of anything on 3rd and 11.
When there's a crucial play, Alex Smith isn't keeping the ball in his hands.
But it's the rare game manager who can also just win the game by himself.
Okay, but so do you see?
He's managing games, guys.
Of Josh Allen.
I
Please,
am.
Can we put this narrative to bed before it starts?
Josh Allen's playing the cleanest football of any QB in NFL history per NFL on CBS. This season, he has the lowest percentage of plays with a sack, fumble, or interception since the merger. Only 4.2% of plays end that way for the Bills.
So, Stugotz, this season, the Bills have basically had half a turnover a game. Half a turnover a game is the average on what the Bills, how you steal the football from them.
Sounds like he's due.
That's the worry. It's bound to happen at some point. Bad weather, happen to anyone.
Ooh.
And I understand Lamar for his postseason, that was one of his better performances, but statistically, he's quite literally half the quarterback he is during the regular season in the postseason. You juxtapose that with what Josh Allen is to his team, a team that spent their entire offseason taking away talent from him, while the Ravens just stacked talent on talent on talent. So many first-rounders across that team. And the difference is Josh Allen played a clean game. Lamar Jackson couldn't. And I know Andrews is the foil because a defender made a great play with a peanut punch and he didn't catch that ball. But Lamar Jackson's fumble was stupid, dumb, worse. Trying to do too much. In fact, you could watch it over again and wonder, how does this even become a fumble? How do you have the opportunity to fumble it, let alone almost be a fumble 6? The criticisms of Lamar have long since
fumble
been valid.
6 is not a thing.
It was almost a fumble 6.
It can't be a thing, but I'm just saying that phrase doesn't work. A pick 6 works, a fumble 6 does not work.
You're right. We need to come up with a different name.
We need another name for
Really?
that. That's not good enough.
I mean, it's not my word.
It's not a phrase that's okay. Pick 6 rhymes and we allow it. Fumble 6, that's the first time I'm hearing it, and I don't want it. Fumble, even though I know exactly what you mean, and I do want to keep examining Stugotz because we won't leave Mark Andrews alone because what came over me on Mark Andrews felt really bad.
Scoop and score.
Fumble 5+1.
Oh, wow. I like that math.
Inefficient. You were pointing.
Metrics.
You're pointing at Billy supporting football fumble 5+1, which is truly terrible.
How so?
We had scoop and score right there.
Yeah.
Plus a potential other one.
I quickly bailed on my own and went to Billy's defense.
I want to talk about Lamar Jackson, Stugotz, and Mark Andrews because at the end of that game, Lamar Jackson did what you require from the MVP on the road. Yeah. At the end of the game, the punctuation falls to someone other than Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, which is why I feel so bad for Mark Andrews, because we were about to get what Roger Goodell does to solve every problem. More football.
Yes.
We're going to get 18 games. We were about to get overtime between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Or we were about to get Josh Allen goes right down the field, not going to be a game manager, going to win the game, or turns it over, Josh Allen, and we laugh at him all offseason because you didn't turn it over at all, but then you turned it over.
I wanted to yell at McDermott. for kicking the field goal.
Well, so let's talk about this for a second.
You
because,
can't do it.
This is, Stugotz, this is where this is.
Even though you should.
We knew that Sam Darnold was going to Sam Darnold. We suspected that that Jared Goff was going to Jared Goff. Where the Bills collapse is with us just watching them and being like, well, is it going to be the turnovers or is McDermott going to get you at the end? Because that's when he's going to shrivel up and say, I've got one of the best running weapons that there is. Yeah, you stopped him that time, but Ravens, the best I got is this. This is the best I got. I got Josh Allen with options, rolling around, needing to get a yard. Stugotz, the difference between the Rams and the Eagles season is the Eagles can't be stopped on 3rd and 2, and the Rams were a couple of times. Like, what can you do on 3rd and 2 in this league, and what can you do in 3rd and 11 in this league? That game was won. McDermott could have choked out Lamar Jackson at the end and instead kicked a field goal in the snow. When even if you go for it and miss, you're still putting Baltimore in the situation they got to go the whole field and get a touchdown.
But don't you guys think, because that touchdown was scored with 90 seconds remaining on the clock, so if they convert the 2-point conversion, it's a tie game. I do think Josh Allen's taking them right down the field, and they win it. Game over.
But you can do that in fiction and hypothesis, but it could also not go like that, and then we're laughing at you the rest of the way. Stugotz, do you know how close we were to laughing at the Eagles? That you're going to waste the Saquon Barkley game up with 5 minutes left by allowing the Rams to score 2 touchdowns on you on your field? Like, and if Stafford had done it, how surprised would you have been? Not very.
No, not at all.
I love watching him at this age.
So do I.
If Matthew Stafford in Detroit had the brains that Rams Matthew Stafford has right now, he'd genuinely be an all-timer.
Cagey vet.
There's just nothing that you can do to surprise him. He's seen it all.
I'm not going to put this on Mark Andrews, though. It's squarely. Like, listen, he had a bad day. I'm not going to deny that. This is squarely on Lamar Jackson. When you're talking about Josh Allen not turning the ball over, Patrick Mahomes not turning the ball over, Jaden Daniels, a rookie, never turning the ball over, and Lamar Jackson, a 2-time MVP, and I do think he is one of the greatest quarterbacks I have ever seen. But my fear for Lamar Jackson is he's going to turn into Dan Marino. There are too many good quarterbacks for all of them to win Super Bowls, and that's on Lamar. That's the glory position. That's the position everyone is watching. You cannot turn it over twice in that game.
So Stugotz is not wrong about anything that he's saying, but this is the context I would offer you, and the reason I say he's not wrong is he wasn't wrong all that time ago when he gave me the same analysis on Peyton Manning and the beginning of his career. And he was this loud about why Peyton Manning wasn't as good as you think Peyton Manning is because he didn't win championships. After 8 playoff games, both Peyton Manning and Lamar Jackson are 3-5. And over 7 seasons, when you win 80-plus games, the only one to not make it to a Super Bowl other than these Ravens is Peyton Manning's Colts. So, yes, you got to win in the playoffs, and he had a couple of turnovers. But for you to skip past Andrews, a guy touching the ball 7 times in the game, fumbling it once, and then dropping the tie and saying it's all on Lamar Jackson when Lamar Jackson made the throw at the end that needs to be caught to tie the game, like you're not showing any nuance there.
Well, I never have.
Could have been a little bit better.
Not going to start today. I mean,
it could have been, sure. It could have been a better throw.
And don't forget, like the Derrick Henry one, too, where Henry has to slow down because he's wide open. Like all these
are the little things, Dan.
Little missed throws. Yeah. I know I'm nitpicking, but I nitpick greatness.
Derrick Henry also dropped the ball that should have been a touchdown.
But no. But that's the one that I'm talking about. Like Derrick Henry has to catch it by his shins because the pass is so bad. The dude is wide open. You got to hit Derrick Henry full stride. That's a touchdown if he does.
He didn't, or Josh Allen didn't turn the ball over, but Lamar had a better game than Josh Allen, except for the turnovers. The Ravens had a better game than the Bills, except for the turnovers. They outgained them 416 yards to 273. Like the passing was better from Lamar. The running was better from Lamar than Josh. They just held on to the ball and they secured the ball. That was the difference.
All the teams that had more yards this weekend lost the game.
Crazy.
That's crazy.
That's a wild stat. The Peyton Manning thing, I think, kind of clicks a little bit. Like Lamar, since he's been in the league, he's won the MVP about like 15% of the time that he's been in it. And we were saying these things about Peyton Manning for a long time. And I think, quite honestly, like Peyton might have had like top to bottom better teams. This is the best team I think I've ever seen Lamar Jackson have. And to go up against one of the weaker Buffalo Bills teams, the only difference is this Bills team has the best Josh Allen we've ever seen, and that's the standard. That's who we compare. Yes, by yards, they had a better game, but I don't think Lamar was better than Josh Allen.
I mean, he had a better rating, he had a better QBR.
Yeah, but Josh did the things to win. More importantly, he did the things to not lose, and Lamar did certain things in that game. Be off by a beat, an inch or two, not be perfect on his opportunities, the turnovers. I just think Josh was better.
This is funny, and you can say whatever you want about who was better in that game, but I do find amazing that by limiting Josh Allen as much as I possibly can, that's how I'm going to beat Lamar Jackson, who needs to be not an inch off, not a step slow. This person, Lamar,
throw was late.
Look, this is what I'm going to say is fair about your criticism, because the winners get to write the history. The losing is forever. He can make all the excuses that he wants. We already did this 20 years ago. The part I'm finding funny is that Bill Polian didn't think Lamar Jackson could be a quarterback because he's exactly the same as Peyton Manning is in the playoffs. Like, statistically, their teams are the same. Wow, great expectations, and then they fall flat in the playoffs. And I spend the entire time arguing to anyone who will listen, Peyton Manning is a better quarterback than Tom Brady. And I am wrong eternally, because he had the start that Lamar Jackson did while Tom Brady was winning right out of the gate, because we do believe there's a knows how to win. And Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are the ones that have that now, because none of us even understand. We'd all be willing to dismiss them as the worst team remaining in these playoffs, given how limited their offense is. But they keep winning every which way, including against the Texans in a way that was a bit baffling.
They have 12 wins by single digits.
It will be funny.
Think about that.
It will be funny to see if they win again, just because they know how to win, and none of us understand how they know how to do that. But to watch Lamar Jackson play the career arc out of Peyton Manning, Stugotz, and I'm going to give you, we have more metrics now than we did back then. In 1999, we were really doing win and clutch, and that's why Peyton Manning can't win in the postseason. Now we have the math that tells us that in tight window throws this season, Lamar Jackson was far and away the best quarterback in the league. It wasn't even close on accuracy.
Right.
So Lamar Jackson, you may think of a certain way, but he's kind of Drew Brees. In terms of accuracy, you might see a quarterback the same way Bill Polian did and be like, nah, not a quarterback. Doesn't look like a quarterback to me. Because it's too much Randall Cunningham. It's move around. It's a lot of athleticism, but also tight window throws, better than anyone in the sport, while the Bills are saying, Josh, no more tight window throws. Just
easy throws.
Tuck it and run.
Yes.
Run for 6 yards.
Shakir for 7. Yes.
Knox and Kincaid, no problem.
Speak for yourself on clutch. I've been talking clutch since 1980. I mean,
fair enough. You understand? You do understand what I'm saying, though, right?
Of course I do. Yeah.
That Lamar Jackson is going to get all of it today, and that's what happens when you lose. And I really do feel like everything's fair under those circumstances. That's the contract in sports. The fan doesn't have to be reasonable or perspective-filled about these things.
You say that, with Peyton Manning making that comparison, there was only one quarterback for Peyton to overcome. And it was Tom Brady. And my fear for Lamar Jackson, because you watch him and you see the obvious talent, and you're watching one of the all-time great quarterbacks to ever play the sport, but Manning only had Brady to deal with. Lamar has Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Jackson, Jaden Daniels. All those guys can't win Super Bowls.
So he's like Phillip Rivers?
I don't know. That's my fear for Lamar Jackson. We're not going to remember him the correct way.
I will say that the dollop of perspective I would put on the punctuation to their season is he did the things at the end that you want him to do. It can't.
Except win.
It can't. Look, I understand, Stugotz, but you and I remember Tom Brady winning a Super Bowl because Pete Carroll didn't just hand the ball to Marshawn Lynch. Tom Brady was on the sidelines. No more clutch, no more of a winner. He was watching the way the rest of us were watching. On the play and in the drive that was needed from Lamar Jackson, He went down the field on the road and tied the football game.
I know, but he puts himself in those positions with the turnovers. That's the point. Like, Dan, that's a game. If you really watch the game and break down the stats and look at it, Baltimore should have blew him out.
Correct. And turnovers are that important. And I've watched Stugotz. One of the great frustrations of my aesthetic football lifetime is, oh, please don't make Patrick Mahomes play that way. Like, don't make the sport change and so much with the athleticism that now Patrick Mahomes, I'm looking at him statistically, and he'll win at the end, but he's a totally mediocre quarterback. And what used to be, I can get 177 yards to just Tyreek Hill, is I get 177 yards and 117 of them are to Travis Kelce.
16 to 25, 177, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He's Alex Smith.
Come on. It's bad. Like, it's frustrating. It's frustrating to watch. That's going to win? Okay, so we're just going to Andy Reid squeeze it to death. We're just going to, how do we get to 22 points by any means necessary? If we could just get to 20. That offense, and I was always scared to bet the under on 30 and 31 and a half. Team total. That offense is at the top of the sport. Had kind of the easiest game this weekend, unless you want to go with the commies. And now you're set up where the analysis of all of this from the start should have been some form of, you know who's going to be remaining at the end? The people I think are the best quarterbacks. And also Jalen Hurts. Because Philadelphia is playing a different – Philadelphia is saying, you know what? What I love about what Philadelphia is doing.
It's great.
Yeah. It just is. It is so great, and it's so great for that city. Because that city considers itself rugged. I don't know how high Saquon Barkley has now climbed on Philadelphia sports legends for all time. But beating a football team to death with his thighs in the modern age, instead of going space age, just saying, you know what we're going to do? We're going to break off a 70-yarder here at some point because he's too big and strong and you're going to get tired of tackling him.
Jalen Hurts threw for 128 yards.
What Philadelphia has in its backfield that is so great. It's not just that their offensive line will maul you, okay? Because, Stugotz, I don't know how much of the Rams-Eagles did you watch this weekend?
Not a lot, to be honest. Yeah.
All right. So there was one storyline they were playing up all game that was fun to watch, okay? And Jared Verse said before the game, and he's a menace. He went to FSU. He also went to somewhere smaller before that. And he's just so fun. And he said he hated Philadelphia and that their fans weren't that smart. And then around the stadium before the game, he's, showing muscles in the cold, just taunting fans.
He went to school at Albany, Dan, before. The Great Danes.
Tell me something about Albany. Tell me something about
what the capital of New York.
Reese Poffenbarger went there.
What was this human being doing to other human beings at Albany? Because he's a menace of a man, and he's a first-round pick, and he goes into that game and he starts taunting Philadelphia, and also after a sack where he really ragdolled Jalen Hurts, who's got one of the, he doesn't get ragdolled very much, Jalen Hurts, because of what his lower body strength is. He gives it felt like the gladiator spectacle, Stugotz, where he's in the center of the field and he's giving Philadelphia fans double thumbs down. But he's going up all game against Lane Johnson, who's about twice his size. Like when you see those cameras from the back, what you're watching is he just keeps all of these players just get engulfed in Lane Johnson, who hasn't allowed a sack in I don't know how long. The Rams were this close, Stugotz.
Oh, they were.
They were this close. Nobody has to go through Detroit anymore. The Rams. We all know that
this close to hosting the NFC Championship game in Glendale.
The Rams.
I think it would have been at SoFi.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I was rooting for LA. I really was. Yeah.
I was too.
Can I ask you guys this question about Mark Andrews? Because my eyes may be lying to me on this one. Jeremy, if you could look this up for me, I would appreciate it. I think of Mark Andrews as somebody, and I may have this totally wrong. DeAndre Hopkins, Larry Fitzgerald, these two human beings were statistically people who had more tackles than drops in their careers. They tackled people after interceptions more often than you would throw the ball, hit them somewhere within a radius that was seen as catchable, and it ended up being a drop. I don't think of Mark Andrews as someone who ever drops the football. However, whatever the sport does to the human body, that guy is one of the first kind of gronky people that there have been, leading the Ravens in touchdowns, if you throw the ball near that person, it's not guardable. The DBs aren't big enough. If you throw the ball accurately, he becomes, for Lamar Jackson, what all those receivers were for Drew Brees when it was all timing accuracy, not guardable, always open. 3rd and 11, whether it's Michael Thomas or Mark Andrews, always open, and if you throw it over there, the DB's not going to be able, without interfering, to get around his body to get near the football. Is Mark Andrews a dropper late in his career? Because I was trying to think on the way in here today, did Mark Andrews just Bill Buckner? Like, in whatever the modern equivalent of those things can be.
Jackie Smith.
That's old school, though.
I know who that is.
Well, so is Buckner.
But for the people that don't.
But Jackie Smith is what year? Is that? Are we talking about 1990s?
No, that's a
1970s?
Cowboys Steelers
like
Super Bowl.
1970s?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so Roy, you went old school there, and you always frighten me and surprise me when you do that because you went old school beyond the old school, and you went to the original Super Bowl.
It wasn't the original. It wasn't
Like
Super Bowl
79
1.
in Roy's defense. I mean, your World Series was 86.
But I'm talking. Yes, but
I mean, it's a comp. I mean, Jackie Smith was a tight end. He dropped the ball in the end zone.
No, but so Jackie Smith, if you were to look that up, I don't know if we'd get in trouble with football footage. We probably would. But if you guys could find Jackie Smith was wide open in the end zone. This was just they threw it at his chest and he failed to catch it. I think that was also in the snow. If I'm not.
No, that was in Miami, wasn't it?
Was it?
I think it was in Miami.
All right, we will find out in a moment.
Wow.
He was just standing in the end zone.
Mark Andrews had 69 targets and 4 drops during the regular season. So
It was the best catch percentage of his career, actually, this year at 79.7%. He's always been above 65%.
He catches roughly 94% of the catchable passes thrown his way.
Catchable, though, right? Late throw.
I mean, that was certainly a catchable pass. It could have been better.
Yeah. Larry Fitzgerald, for his career, Dan, had 29 drops and 41 tackles.
I think DeAndre Hopkins is something like that. It's an amazing couple of stats. I just felt this. I know you guys make fun of me all the time for my weepy, syrupy, I feel bad for so-and-so. For the Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson game with some stakes on it that felt like a Super Bowl to end in incompetence instead of competence made me hurt for a Hall of Famer of excellence that we can all agree has his name associated with greatness, most touchdowns in the history of the franchise, but might have just got stamped out by a moment because I don't know what Jackie Smith did in his career. I remember last week when we were talking about Bob Uecker, I failed to mention, like, Bob Uecker for his career batted 200 and like had 145 at bats or something. Like, just it didn't play very much, but the rest of his career ended up being his legacy. The thing that made me feel bad for Mark Andrews, beyond just an athlete not being competent in a moment that demands greatness, for all of us to have that as the ending of that game, when I know how great that guy is, and was I just watching everyone diminishing that name to something that's less than great because of the size of that moment and the size of the incompetence.
Super Bowl 13 was in Miami. Jackie Smith's career numbers is 7,918 yards, 40 touchdowns.
No snow, by
Did
the
it
way.
snow? Yeah.
I don't know if there's any coming back from Mark Andrews from that with that organization for a lot of reasons. He's an all-time great for that franchise, but if you've watched him, he's had the injuries. He's got this bigger frame. He's got a bigger number attached to his contract, and Isaiah Likely has been coming for his job. Right. And if you remember that moment, what happened right before that play? Isaiah Likely's there for Lamar Jackson. Just like he's been there.
Isaiah Likely, the
season.
last 3 seasons, this is felt fun to watch visually because it's sort of the evolution of the position, and to watch it happening on that team, Stugotz, for that position. When you're watching, tell me I don't have this right, because this is pretty rare in football, I think. I have watched Mark Andrews age in a way that's obvious to the eye. I've watched a lot of his career, a lot of those touchdowns. So when he's moving, I can see, not unlike I can see with Patrick Mahomes scrambling, oh, that's where football stole some of his youth. It's the same number. It looks like the same body. I'm expecting it to look the same at the end as it did at the beginning, but it doesn't. And the reminder is in his own huddle when Likely runs down the field and he doesn't look like he needs WD-40.
Right.
It's not chunks of rust
He's
that are
young.
falling.
I mean-
No, he's young. Yes.
He's fast.
He's
Andrews
just,
is only 29. Like he played with Baker.
Yes. By the way, Jackie Smith made it to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Also, he's white.
put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Maybe that's what I thought with Snow.
Oh.
Has there ever been a white Jackie?
The rapper?
I don't know.
Put it on the poll
Male.
at Le Batard
McMullen,
Show.
yeah.
Has there ever been a white male Jackie?
Jackie Moon. Harbaugh also went for 2, by the way, in the third quarter. Like, had he just kicked
Yes.
extra points both times,
Yes.
the game would have been tied, and they wouldn't have had to go for 2 at the end of the game.
Maybe McDermott doesn't kick that stupid field goal, though.
Jackie Gleason.
He wore his belt buckle to the side.
Back to you, Dick.
Who wore Jackie Gleason or Stugotz? Who wore their belt buckle?
Jackie Gleason. He
off
would
to the
wear his
side.
Belt buckle on the side.
Yeah, he did.
Why?
I don't know.
He's a big man.
Yeah.
Am I right when I frame it in that as the historical perspective that Mark Andrews is now, we now have a moment that's the opposite of excellent, that the football weekend was marred by, instead of greatness, this Hall of Famer, an immortal, really, at the position. You'd say yes, no?
No.
He's just a guy.
Yeah.
Wow, you got him as a Jag?
You think he's like a top? You think Mark Andrews is an immortal? Is he like a top 5 tight
If he
end
put
of
together
all
like
time?
3 more seasons,
Is he a top 5 tight
You have
end,
Mark
like,
Andrews
presently?
with Tony Gonzalez and
No.
guys like that.
Well, I mean, I got to see the numbers, but I think like if he puts together 3-4 more seasons of what he's done in his career, he might be a borderline Canton guy.
I could make an argument that no one would get behind that I think George Kittle might be the best tight end that we've seen because George Kittle has not had the quarterbacks that the great tight ends have had.
Or Bowers. I could go Bowers
come on.
now.
Oh, Bowers is
One
already
year.
there.
Come on.
Yeah.
But before
Kittle's the best blocker.
Billy, that was great, and I want you to sharpen that. Because we're sharpening boldest take here.
I mean, Travis Kelce's had Patrick Mahomes. Gronk had Brady. Who has Kittle had?
He's great. He's indisputably great.
And by the way, half the time they just use him for blocking. Like, they haven't even unleashed him to his full potential.
I would say that George Kittle is probably better than Mark Andrews now and forevermore, but I don't know how you're defining immortal. So perhaps I'm getting carried away. I just think of this player as one of the best I've seen at the position, totally unguardable. But when you talk boldest take, we now have a sponsored boldest take. You guys have been leaving them by voicemail. We're keeping alive the voicemail, Stugotz.
Wow.
The landline and the voicemail. You haven't heard about this. I expected you to be on here spewing takes on your way home because we've got a sponsored take line, and this is our boldest take from the weekend.
The Boost Mobile boldest take from the weekend is presented by Boost Mobile, the newest 5G network in the country.
Hey, yo, I ain't gonna hold you. I've seen the success of LeVar Ball now with the 3 of his sons. LaMelo, All-Star. Lonzo, he's cooking in Chicago. So here's my proclamation. LiAngelo Ball is going to the Grammys this year. Not only is he going to the Grammys, he's winning one. Rap Song of the Year, baby. Tweaker, I might swerve in that corner, whoa, whoa.
Look at this. Doggy on a Tuesday. Oh, Doggy on a Tuesday. Can't even fix his hair. Too busy running from Hollywood premiere to Hollywood premiere because First Take has given him a
I put so
second
much
life.
out here last Tuesday in London, you'd be amazed.
All
My
right.
hair was freaking frozen.
Okay,
Ice.
I am mortified by your general behavior of being Maximum Stugotz, getting near the fame, and demanding that Timothee Chalamet, whatever his name is, I can't pronounce his first name. It's the first name I have trouble with because it's not Timothy.
Timothy.
It's not
Timothée.
It's Timothée. It's
Get over yourself.
Okay,
I mean,
well, that's
Jesus.
the thing.
Right.
Mad
It's
Dog,
Timmy.
you got to the top, and you immediately started calling in favors, and then Chalamet's got to give you an audience. And then you get the audience. Shameless. Embarrassing.
It was, but I enjoyed it. I can guarantee you that, baby. I mean, listen, I did that thing on First Take, and I had done the Complete Unknown stuff for a while because I love the promos, I love Dylan and everything else. But when I went on there on January 2nd, I said, okay, let's do a Mad About, and let's do a Mad About me, about how I couldn't get a seat to the premiere. in New York on December, 17th or 18th. Somehow, some way, Searchlight didn't think of me. And so I said, let's have fun with that. Obviously, First Take loves it when you're being made fun of instead of me making fun of everybody else. And lo and behold, 4 days later, Searchlight calls Jill Dreibin, my agent, one of them, and says, listen, how would he like to go to one of the premieres in Europe? So it was London, it was Paris, and it was Rome. And I looked at the calendar, looked at when the football games were. Rome was a Friday, so I didn't want to go there because I missed the NFL. Wednesday, Paris. I thought maybe the Q&A would be in French, so I wouldn't hear that properly. So that's why I picked London. I flew over there last Monday, took my daughter, who was 24, on Wednesday.
Embarrassing.
And lo and behold,
Embarrassing.
Chalamet did an absolutely tremendous job.
Okay.
And forget me.
You're bought and paid for. You're bought and paid. Yeah, no, I'm going to argue about that.
Yeah, you're right.
Embrace it, Doggy.
And Bob Dylan would hate what you're doing. He would hate what you're doing.
Well, he hates what everyone's doing.
He hates what Chalamet's doing, and you're out here endorsing, you laundering Chalamet for Bob Dylan because they can buy you. It's embarrassing. But we'll get to that in a second. I want to play the sound for you. And the audience of you using your platform shamelessly to just curry favor with the famous so that your daughter can get cool things here. It's not objectivity, and it's wrong, and it needs to be called out.
It's good parenting, though.
Yeah. That's it.
Last Thursday, I had to wait in line in that cold weather at that Royal Theater in Norwalk. They don't know me. 5 seats? Yeah, but you're right back. I had to sit in the front row. Don't laugh.
That's the worst. Break the
What a disgrace. You mean to tell me that somebody from that movie couldn't pick up the phone and say, you know what, the guy's an idiot, but he's talking at us about it. Send him a lousy ticket so he can go premiere on the west side of Manhattan. And I wasn't invited. And that has me really, really upset. And it shows me at 65 years of age that I have. We know he doesn't have any power. Where's Chalamet, by the way, hot stuff? Shows that I have no power.
I love you, Doggy.
That was on January 2nd, Danny. That was on January. Now, I did not do that thinking that somehow, some way, because I had been screaming about this movie for a month and nobody had reacted at all. Radio, TV, everything. Nobody said a word.
I'm gonna argue.
But that one resonated.
Look, I don't like what you've become late in your career here, where you are simply trafficking in all of the powers that you have to do things that satiate only you and your ego.
Dog's been doing this his entire career.
I know,
Dan.
it's great. It's been wonderful to see it have a resurgence so strong that he just got done casually saying, one of my agents. What? One of my agents?
Yep.
How many agents do you have, Russo?
Well, they work together, and I wanted to give Jill the credit because they called her. You are funny, Le Batard. You are funny. You are funny. But anyway, little did I know, after I did that, a day or so later, Chalamet called Searchlight. Let's get him a couple tickets to one of our premieres. So I went, and I wasn't going to take my daughter. I was going to take my youngest son, who loves movies, and he goes to Loyola Marymount, but he's mad that I got Chalamet and he didn't, so he didn't want to do it, so that's where Kira Russo came in. And there is the shot of Chalamet, and the nicest guy in the world, Stugotz, look at that, the nicest guy in the world. Yeah. And what a nice kid. And forget me, he signed every autograph for those fans who lined that red carpet. He took pictures. He grasped the idea. He on the set or on the stage before the movie was presented. He did a great job. Talked about the LA fires. I mean, I can't tell you how. And then he's doing Saturday Night Live this week, as you guys know. So I can't tell you how good he did. What a nice kid. What a nice kid.
Doggy Djokovic, huh?
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I got up at 5:15 to watch. He lost the first set, and he was right in the middle of the first set, and he had to take a medical timeout because he hurt his groin. He came back in the second set, got a little more aggressive. Alcaraz was a little off. And Djokovic he had a great second serve. He much more offensive than normal. He got a little healthier. That's a hell of a win. 37 years of age, beating Alcaraz in four sets, winning 3 in a row. Now he's in the semifinals of Australia, which he's won 10 times. We're getting off the beaten path. but that's a hell of a win.
Well, you're not getting off the beaten path, but this Mad Dog still has a good ear for this. He knows when the audience wants 45 seconds of Mad Dog and when they want 25 seconds of Mad Dog on a subject. But I do think it's fair to say that you might be the country's preeminent voice on tennis,
no doubt,
in this sphere. And so what you just saw this morning that still gets you up at 5 o'clock in the morning, you just saw a champion do what great champions do and push back youth by going and summoning his own, even though he's injured. And you just saw Djokovic throw back on somebody who's young and coming for his job with, no, I'm better than anyone who played in my era. I'm the best there's ever been.
100%, Dan. Remember, he beat him in Paris when he won the Olympic gold medal, which he really wanted to do. He won in straight sets and tie-break sets, took 3 hours on the clay. He did not win a major last year, Djokovic. He lost, he didn't win. He got to some finals, but he lost. Obviously, Alcaraz beat him in 2 straight Wimbledon finals. Alcaraz is an all-timer. He's going to be, and Alcaraz handled himself great today. I mean, even after he lost, he's a very, very cool guy. He's a good loser. And Djokovic did a hell of a job. I mean, he had some offense today. He served big, and in one of the sets, he was up 3-0. I think it was the third set at a set apiece. He was up 3-0, lost 3 straight games. And you figured, all right, he's had his little run. Now he's dead. And he hung on to win the set. So I give him a lot of credit. He'll play Zverev next in one of the semifinals. He's still got to beat Sinner, who's on the other side of the draw. That will be absolutely tricky. It's amazing, Dan, how you went from Chalamet, red carpet London, to Melbourne, quarterfinals Djokovic. Talk about transition. That's a hell of a job on your part.
Russo, it's one of the greatest compliments you could give as a host for all time to tell me that I am doing this correctly. I will have you know that as you were talking about tennis,
I brought it to tennis.
Yes, you brought it to tennis. I will give you your credit in a moment. If you give me just a second, I will tell your idol about the good thing that you did. That's where I was headed. As you were talking, Stugotz was saying in my ear, I couldn't even hear you, this is how he does it, baby. This is how the music plays. He goes through the resume and shows you how he knows off the top of his head all of this person's credentials, and then he dismounts, and he's a gymnast for all time. Stugotz was doing play-by-play on what it is that you were saying because he's enjoyed your tennis analysis for 30 years.
Doggy, I was telling Dan right before you gave credit to Alcaraz, he's going to give credit to Alcaraz. How about that?
He did. He knew.
Really?
He's got the scouting report on you. He could do it. I would love to have Stugotz play-by-play that you could hear on how well he can do you for you because
I know that. I'm well aware. He follows me. I got to be careful with him because he's idol might be a little strong, Dan, but I'm a sports fan first. And so, I haven't watched that much of the Australian Open yet because it's been a week earlier this year, which means it's in the middle of all the football. So I've stayed away. I'll be on top of it this week. Djokovic plays Alcaraz. He's 37 years of age. How many more times is he going to get a chance to be on this stage? I know PMAC fairly well. He's calling a match. Fowler will be there for the weekend, by the way. I know PMAC fairly well. I needed to get up, and 5:15 is better than 3:30 because there was a match before it. So I was juiced up. I kept my eyes open, and I was there right away. And listen, it's a big weekend. You had 4 good NFL games. You had a college championship. You got an Australian Open final. Buffalo, Kansas City should be great on Sunday afternoon. Daniels is great. It's a good time of the year in sports. Danny, as you know, it's a good time of the year.
I, again, will present to you and the audience, though, is anyone in your life, any family, any friends, saying to you, Mad Dog, the way you've been compromised on this Bob Dylan movie offends us from the 1970s. You're shilling on behalf of Bob Dylan's movie in a way Bob Dylan would find unbecoming. He hated Hollywood this way.
That is fair. Now, Dylan does like Chalamet's performance. He put that tweet out, and I don't want to come across as this Dylan expert. There are a lot more people older than me who know a lot more about Dylan than I do. Eddie Coleman, the old New York Met guy from FAN, is one. My buddy Sean McAdam is 2. But I love the songs. Have you seen the movie yet, by the way, both of you guys? Have you seen them or not?
I haven't seen it.
I have not.
No.
I haven't.
You have no desire to see it, or you're going to get around to it?
Not a big Dylan fan. Got to be honest, Doug.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, the movie's great. I was really impressed with the London audience. They laughed at the right spots. Outside of me having to go to the bathroom and calling over 9 million people.
What happened there? What happened? Did you lose your seats?
And I know, they gave me the seats in the middle of the theater, Kira and I. What? So I said to myself, this is going to be dangerous. The movie's 2:20. I had to sit there through the little prelim with the 3 actors, Monica Barbero, Norton, and Chalamet. I'm definitely, I'm 65 years of age. I get up 9 times during the night. I knew I was going to be in a situation where I was going to have to crawl over somebody.
The seats weren't good enough.
I had to pick my spot. 4 English people, and I'm crawling over hands and knees, and I knew where the movie kind of slowed up, so I picked the spot to do it, and then I saw the conclusion of the movie again in the back of the theater. Anyway, loved every minute of it. He does a great job, and, I love the songs. It's authentic. It did not disappoint. Now, be fair, Dan, be fair. When I started on this little complete unknown rampage, I did it 5 or 6 months ago. I did not do it with the idea, well, let me do this enough times and somebody from the movie will find out about it. And as a result, I'll get preferential treatment. That was the furthest thing from my mind. Now, it worked out that way, but that was to be fair. And I'd be the first to tell you if I did this with a pre-planned, but that was not my plan going in. Not my plan. I got to be fair. It wasn't my plan.
Doggy, just before you came on, we were talking some of the legends of the game, the immortals, as Dan put it, and he called Mark Andrews an immortal. In terms of tight ends, do you rank him as an immortal?
I may have gotten
not after Sunday. I don't.
Oh no!
Right.
Oh no!
And can you meet the media after the game, guys? When you drop fumble and you drop a big pass before Jackson's fumble, and then you drop the 2-point conversion. Can you meet the media after the game?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is that asking too much?
Put it on the poll. Put it on the poll, Juju.
Yep.
Hey, Mark Andrews, can you meet the media? Is that asking too much?
Say it to me. Say it to somebody.
I remember Diggs last year after he dropped that pass, which probably would have won a game against Kansas City for Buffalo. He didn't meet the media either. Yeah. These guys are hot stuff. They meet the media and they put everything out when they do well, but when they do badly, they don't.
They are hot stuff.
Right.
They are hot
stuff. It drives me crazy.
What would you have asked, Doggy? What would you have asked him?
I would have been nice about it. I would have been, it was his first fumble of the year. I thought the fumble at midfield was worse than a 2-point conversion. And I say that because I think even if he caught it, 1:40 to go, Buffalo 2 timeouts, Bass had already made a 51-yard field goal. I think Buffalo probably would have gone down the field and maybe win the game with a field goal. But the fumble at 24-19, if he doesn't and they score and, let's see, go up 3, they would have been no worse than overtime. So I thought the fumble at midfield actually was worse than the dropped 2-point conversion myself. And, let's give Jackson credit. I mean, he did have the 2 turnovers, but he drove his team down the field. He bounced back.
Do we have to give him credit? Do we have to
give
him
credit? And I've been anti-Jackson because I think he's overrated a little bit.
Do we have to give him credit? Do we have to give him credit? Because Andrews didn't catch the ball. Do we have to give him credit?
I think we do, Dan, because of the drive. If they did not go down the field and score, and they ended up losing the game 27-19, I think we would have been a lot more critical. The fact that he got the game tied with a minute and a half to go after a bad first half, I think you got to give him credit. Now, is he as good as Mahomes? No. Is he as good as Allen? No. Is he as good as Burrow? No. I don't think he's as good as Stafford. But
he's a 2-time MVP, Doggy.
But he's 3-5 in the postseason.
That's right. You tell him, Doggy.
So was Peyton Manning, though, and I was arguing the whole time that while it was happening that he was as good as Brady.
He's not. He's not.
Is it possible John Harbaugh is just not that great of a coach?
The fact that Tony Romo, for the second time in a month, went on the air on Sunday to tell us that Harbaugh is an all-time top, whatever it might be, coach. Tony, have you heard of Belichick? Have you heard of Lombardi? Have you heard of Parcells, Gibbs, All Brown, George Halas, Bill Walsh? Have you heard of Andy Reid? Have you heard of some of these guys?
Did you?
That is outlandish.
Did you
Harbaugh's done a good job.
One
he's
Super
won
Bowl, though.
one Super Bowl.
Exactly.
He's been to one Super Bowl in 15 years, 18, 20 years. Let's take it easy.
Yeah.
Please take it easy. And I'll tell you right now, I am so sick of Kansas City. If I see Caitlin Clark or Taylor Swift one more time in that freaking suite, I'm going to go throw up. And if Mahomes gets one more call, the whole Chief organization gets nothing but calls. How the hell did they call those two roughing the passers? And then Mahomes is mocking the officials by trying to get a third call by dancing out of bounds and see if he can figure out a way to get another 15 free yards. That was a disgrace on Saturday afternoon. And I'm not saying Kansas City won the game because of that, but they got a field goal in the first third, Nate, roughing the passer on Will Anderson, which is an awful call. And then they got the second one when he was pretended to go out of bounds, didn't, and they gave him another 15 yards, which led to a touchdown. The NFL should be embarrassed with the amount of calls that Kansas City gets year after year after year. It drives, I don't know how you feel about it. I am chiefed out. It drives me crazy. It drives me crazy.
I want to ask you, because I am someone, having done this for a very long time, but not as long as you,
Oh, yes, you've done it a long time.
Who marvels at your general stamina. The question I want to ask you is, does your family get annoyed by how much you just cared about what you were just talking about?
You know what they care about? The volume of the voice. That's what they care about. Right. When I get into it and go loud, that's when everybody, and my poor wife, and remember, I'm an empty nester right now. And my poor wife gets, can you calm down a minute?
But it's your passion. But Russo, it's the fuel in the furnace at the end that makes all of the economy grow so that he has two agents.
I agree. Well, again, two agents is a little strong.
Right. They work together.
You're the one who
take
said
it easy. I don't have Scott Forrest and Sandy Montag. Take it easy.
I know.
Take it easy.
You said it, doggy.
He's the one who said one of my agents. I didn't make that correction. You made that correction. I don't have any agents.
You should have an agent for the career that you got. Anyway,
tell me about
yes. So the world, at least me, is going to root like hell for Buffalo on Sunday night. Oh, I don't want to see Chiefs Eagles again. Please, whatever you can do.
Well, what do you want? What do you want?
I'm going to root for Washington.
What do you want?
He wants Bills Washington.
I want Bills Washington.
Jaden, give me all the history here. Jaden Daniels is the best rookie quarterback since blank.
That's a good question. Let me think. Since ever? I mean, he has played so well. God, he's good. No mistakes in the postseason. I'd have to go back and look what Luckman did. I'd have to go. Brady didn't win as a rookie.
Marino
came in, but was that his second year when I got to the Super Bowl? It was his second, right, Danny?
But I thought that he came in at the beginning of that season and immediately showed us, oh, holy shit, no one learns the position that quickly. You rarely see it that obviously, Russo.
Good point. Marino would be the other person. But listen, Daniel, Marino didn't make the championship game his first year. That was his second year when they got to the Super Bowl in '85 because he came out of the '83 draft. This kid is doing it in his rookie year. He had all those starts in college. I give them a chance on Sunday. Hurts' injury is going to be interesting. And the Buffalo-Kansas City game is fascinating. I thought McDermott was very conservative late in the second half, or really the whole second half on Sunday. He's not going to have to – he can't do that this week. He's got to be as aggressive as hell. And I don't know how you feel about it. I've had enough of the Chiefs. Let's pray for the Bills on Sunday. Pray for the Bills.
Doggy, I looked up Sid Luckman's rookie year. He threw for 636 yards.
How about Sammy Baugh, Stugotz? How about Sammy Baugh?
Don't do this.
I'll look up Sammy.
Don't do this. We don't want to do that show.
What do you mean?
What is it? What else has you maximum fired up today? Like you just went through the litany of all the things in sports you love. You got a 3-day long weekend and a whole lot of football in it. So you come out raring this work week thinking about what most passionately?
Well, I did a show yesterday because of all the games. I guess the other thing would be this. How about these Ohio State fans who for weeks wanted Ryan Day basically run out of town because he lost to Michigan when they were already in the tournament. And then, in fact, they win 4 in a row in convincing fashion and play great doing it. And now all of a sudden, he's the incarnate of Woody Hayes. You talk about a bunch of phonies. And you talk about those Buckeye fans who think in this era, when the end game is more important than any regular season game, nobody at Ohio State or Ann Arbor should care that much about Ohio State and Michigan. The idea is to win in the postseason. That is the idea. That is what Ohio State would. I'll ask an Ohio State fan this: would they rather have beaten Michigan the Saturday after Thanksgiving and not have a flag planted at midfield?
Yes.
Or would they rather have had that? Or
Yes.
rather gotten blown out by Tennessee?
No, they'd be fine. That's
Which
fine.
one they want?
No, they would have taken the win over Michigan.
It's a tainted championship, doggy. They didn't beat Michigan. I mean, I would respect Ohio State fans more if they still fired Ryan Day, honestly.
Oh, come on. The Michigan game means nothing.
Oh,
Who
because he can't
cares?
win it. Because he
No,
can't
but
win that
doggy,
game. That's
doggy.
the game. He can't do it, doggy.
Doggy, last year Michigan won the national championship and beat Ohio
Put
State.
it on the poll,
I mean,
Juju. Should Ohio State?
I'll grant you it would be a touch sweeter if the Michigan win it was part of this run. But the bottom line is, in my eyes, the 4-game run is far significant than losing to Michigan. Who cares?
One last question from Stugotz, but just put it on the poll for me, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Should Ohio State fire Ryan Day anyway? At Le Batard Show.
Speaking of phony fan bases, doggy, how about the Philadelphia Eagle fan base? I mean, this is a fan base who wanted to fire Nick Sirianni. All Sirianni has done has made it to the postseason his first 4 seasons as the Eagles head coach. Only Eagles head coach to do that in the history of the organization. He has brought them to a Super Bowl, a play away from beating Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Now he's back in the NFC Championship game, and this fraudulent fan base wanted to fire this head coach, who might be the best head coach in Eagles history, dog. They wanted to fire him 7 weeks ago.
I'm not a big Sirianni fan, but you're making an excellent point. And now that's Stugotz. They play hard for him. You know, Barkley likes him. He made the right decision not playing him in week 18 against the Giants, which nobody cared about. That was obviously a big performance by Barkley on those big running plays. He's got a banged-up quarterback. He's done a good job revamping that defense with Fangio. You guys know him well. And the Eagle fan also, I had a lot of calls yesterday telling me, well, you know, I was never worried Sunday. Never worried. What are you, crazy? I mean, the Rams had a first down at the 21-yard line with a minute left, with about to win the game. How could you not be worried, for crying out loud?
Well, I want to ask you, though, when Stugotz says what he says, never mind 7 weeks ago, in the last 5 minutes of that game, Eagles fans wanted to fire Sirianni again. Like that is where the expectations are for that team. Doggy, you've seen this so many times, right? I mean, that fan base is crazy to begin with, but now give it the expectations of championships. Give it, we can win one with our backup quarterback, and we can be so much better than everyone. They've got an offensive line that mauls people, and they're trying to win football the old-fashioned way, and those fans are the craziest, as most rugged in the sport. A.J. Brown better not read something on the sidelines. They're nuts, doggy. They were nuts 15 years ago. They were nuts 30 years ago.
Yep.
This is the most nuts they've been, to have this particular team representing them, and they don't trust their meathead coach. They don't, because they got spoiled on Andy Reid, and they got spoiled on the idea of we deserve to be in the championship game.
Andy Reid, who won nothing for them. Nothing.
Yeah, well, he got the one FC championship. Yeah, those fans are tricky. I completely agree. It's a very fickle fan base. All fan bases are up and down, but they're beyond crazy with being up and down. And again, he has to win it all. I think him and McDermott have a lot of pressure on him. I think McDermott has to beat the Chiefs. You can't go 0-4 against Kansas City in the postseason. I think it's not as much pressure on Allen, because he's played well against Kansas City in the past. That's a lot of pressure on McDermott. They have to win the game. For him, he's going to get some heat if he doesn't. And I think Sirianni, as you just said, Danny, I think Sirianni is going to can't lose to Washington. He's a 5-point favorite. And, he lost 2 years ago. Again, I thought the call was a bad call under the circumstances. He probably has to win it. So I think those two have Quinn's got no pressure on him. Reid, what are you going to say? He's won 3 titles. He's got no pressure on him. The two coaches that need to win in the worst way is Buffalo and Philadelphia. And because that fan base is nuts, Sirianni probably more, they'd be all over him, because they're also a bigger favorite, and they're home, than the Buffalo one. But McDermott needs to win this game. It's a big game for McDermott. Eventually, you're going to have to beat Andy Reid in a big spot. And they have lost a lot of playoff games. And again, great teams have beaten them, but they need to win this year. We shall see. Looking forward to it, son.
He is the leader America needs right now. He's the host of Mad Dog Unleashed, weekdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM's Mad Dog Sports Radio, and he is very much Stugotz's idol.
Yeah, I looked up Sammy Baugh as well, dog. 1,127 yards his rookie season.
What year was that? 38, 39? What year
Yeah,
was that?
37, dog.
All right,
37.
enough with the two of you. He's just showing off
All day, doggy.
his historic muscle from 80 years ago. See you later, doggy. Thank you.
Good job, Danny.
Thank you.
That's the ultimate
the highest
compliment.
compliment.
Yes,
The highest
yes.
compliment.
Danny, good job, Danny.
Good.
I mean-
I am swooning with intoxicated delight that he thinks I do this well.
Wonder who he thinks the next American male to win a Grand Slam is. Wow. It's a log jam there.
Doggy, you hear that?
You guys are.
God.
We can bring him back. You guys want to do tennis? I do
He's the
believe.
greatest,
I
yes.
believe that
Fritz,
Mike
Paul,
Ryan.
Shelton.
I believe if we got Doggy on right now, that Mike Ryan and Doggy could do the best 5 minutes in tennis radio or sports pods you will find anywhere in America or internationally.
Possibly the only.
That too.
The only 5
That
minutes.
too.
Best by default.
That is that was a
That
rhetorical
isn't
trick.
a tennis-specific pod. It's us.
No, you're wrong, because I'm sure there is a community of pods, as there is everywhere, for things that people care about unreasonably. But it is rare, I will tell you, for Stugotz and Mike Ryan to both be shaken by the nipples in the morning because they know they're watching historic greatness on the television, and you want to be paying attention when you care so much that you know that the care that goes into Rafael Nadal, who's going to limp through the rest of his life because of God knows what he's done to his feet to try and keep up with these two, Djokovic and Federer. For Djokovic to still be someone who's in the middle of your dreams, nightmares, making Tuesday morning relevant because you want to see him lose or you want to see him win. But either way, you know you're watching historic greatness.
Well, he's the last guy left from that generation. Federer retired. Nadal is done, as you pointed out. He'll be
Murray's his
limping around.
coach.
Right, Murray is coaching him, and Djokovic is still playing. And not just still playing at the highest of levels. He's 37, and he beat the guy coming for all his stuff, Carlos Alcaraz, who was 21. He's in better shape than Alcaraz. It's insane.
I wish the match were better, but the reason why we're being grabbed by the nipples and shaken is, like, if I tell you, hey, on a Tuesday morning at 7 a.m., Bird and Magic are playing 1v1. It's all-time greatness. Those are probably, when it's all said and done, 2 top 5 men's tennis players of all time that we just get as a gift here, January, Tuesday morning. I'll stop on it every time.
I want to get into, with Mike Ryan, what is surrounding Mark Andrews, because I pulled too hard on the rope in calling him an immortal because I'm trying to protect him. I'm trying to shield him for what cometh his way.
He might be the third best tight end in Ravens history.
Yeah,
I mean.
I think so. He's behind Sharp
away.
and Heap.
I got carried away. I'm sorry for that. Billy and Stugotz immediately jumped to attention.
Immortal.
He does need 3 more
totally
good
fair.
years, though.
Totly fair. I just think of him as
To become Jared Cook.
I think of him as pretty great, like, because those guys didn't have as many touchdowns as he had. Mm-hmm. And
he's a really good player.
But
he's fantastic. Like,
Yes.
if he puts together like another Olympiad of what he's done in his career, he's a borderline Canton guy. Right now his Canton grade, according to Pro Football Reference, is in the 30s. So he needs a little bit more longevity.
I got carried away. Tony Gonzalez is the kind of immortal that I'm talking about. Correct me if I'm wrong. Somebody mentioned this to me. I didn't know if it were so or not. But Bezos's wife is the mother of Tony Gonzalez. Didn't know that until I didn't know that until yesterday.
they were married, or they were together. Certainly.
Tony Gonzalez
puts Amazon on Prime like in a whole new light, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It is interesting, certainly. I've got 4 years where I'm looking at touchdowns increasing, and generally, if I tell you who's the best to ever play at that organization, by and large, you're going to go to touchdowns for an offensive player who's not a quarterback. It's how you're going to measure greatness. When we think of that team and all-time greatness, Stugotz, we think of Ray Lewis.
Ed Reed.
We think of Ed Reed.
Yep.
Do you think of Jamal Anderson when they were rugged and
Jamal Lewis.
Jamal Lewis,
Jamal
excuse
Anderson
me.
was the Falcons.
Forgive
Dirty
me.
Bird.
I do not.
You don't think of like getting close to 2,000 yards playing the Saquon Barkley way? You think of Flacco? That's who you're thinking of there?
When I think of all-time great Ravens, perhaps I should. I just don't. I don't go. Yeah, but I think of the defense. I do. I think of that team. I think of the guys who play defense.
If we're doing like
Right.
name association,
Yes.
it's Ray Lewis, Ed Reed defense.
Yes.
That's their legacy.
But offensively, I mean.
Offensively, I probably, because he was there for so long playing the most important position, I'd probably say Flacco. But Jamal Lewis was more excellent at his job in an individual season than arguably any. Well, no, Lamar Jackson now. Sorry, I'm showing my age. Lamar Jackson's probably the offensive player for that.
The reason I
franchise, no
bring
doubt,
all
actually.
of it up is because, quiet as it is kept in America's most popular sport, for 20 years now, the greatest of the organizations has been these Ravens, if not for the stupidity of what the Patriots were doing. Like, largely, in terms of general excellence, they flip-flopped from we were a defensive organization to now we're an offensive organization, and both styles punch you in the mouth all game. Jay Glazer's saying, that's a culture of violence that they have over there. Ricky Williams saying, when I'm in that locker room with Ed Reed and Ray Lewis, I feel like a bunny rabbit with wolves. Like you're talking about the Baltimore Ravens, if toughness is something that you feel like you can see, it's been that organization for a quarter century, for as long as the Patriots have been here, and they've done. Do I have this wrong?
I mean, the Steelers have won more Super Bowls than the Ravens in that time, and they haven't had a losing season. I don't think anyone thinks that they've been dominant, but they've done as much postseason, if not more postseason winning than the Ravens.
But the reason I bring it up is because I remember the Dolphin team that was 11-5 got carried away with itself, had a home playoff game, and the Ravens came in here and ransacked them with that defense. Because when I think of Ravens being great at football, I think defense. The last 6 weeks of this season, when they moved Kyle Hamilton to safety, they had the number one defense in the sport. And they fall at the end, but whether your expectations are the Steelers or the Ravens have been close to the best for 25 years, competitive in the conversation.
They've certainly been in the conversation.
They're
one of the better organizations in the NFL. They just don't win enough.
More than the other teams. Even I don't know, who do you regard as better over the last 25 years? Maybe that's how you do the measurement, just Super Bowls and nothing else. And I could say winning and nothing else, because Tomlin's on the hot seat in a way that Harbaugh is not, because he doesn't get this far to the expectations being here anymore. He gets to the first round, and that's when he's done, and they're fed up with that.
But the Ravens are done in the second round.
But they've been to the Super Bowl. They played the Patriots.
Well, they've won a Super Bowl. They should have went to another Super Bowl. Lee Evans had that drop in New England. So they're like, the Ravens are one of the better organizations. Yes, the problem is they've won just one Super Bowl.
All right, put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Who's been better the last 25 years, Steelers or Ravens? And a remarkably sports question, but I regard the Ravens as better. I may have it wrong. I regard Mark Andrews as somebody who doesn't drop the ball.
I looked up Mark Andrews here on Pro Football Reference and the Hall of Fame monitor number. I don't know if you're familiar with this. The average Hall of Fame monitor number for a tight end is 97. Mark Andrews' Hall of Fame monitor number is 31.13.
He got carried away.
Does it have the fine for not listening? Because Steve Morton also.
You guys have me. You guys have me as Mark Andrews isn't a Hall of Famer.
Oh, I mean.
You guys think Mark Andrews?
He said he's an immortal.
He's got to put together 4 more years.
That measurement that you just gave me is for immortals, is it not? That's the measurement. You're trying to give me an immortal meter, were you not?
Sure.
Are we enforcing not listening fines, or are we not?
He's like a third of his way to immortal.
It's Tuesday. Fines are doubled. I mean, how about that?
Well, no, it's opposite days.
Greg is
I think Tuesday's opposite days, so I get paid.
It's a Tuesday that feels like a Monday.
$7.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not paying that. I'll pay when Lucy does.
So I'm not doing it this way. I'm not having the sponsor disrespected this way. This is Venmo, and the Venmo fine bucket must be respected. And so therefore, you and I are going to have to pay our fines.
Well, I Venmo'd it already.
$7.
No.
It's been sent.
Nope. I need to know, though. I haven't used the Venmo yet.
I feel like these fines should be at scale.
You deserve a fine for just it's Tuesday, it's opposite day. Like that's what you deserve. You deserve a fine for that.
It's not on the sheet.
Fine print, it does say fines are doubled on Tuesdays, but it only applies to Greg. So it's just $7 for not listening because we did the whole Pro Football Reference Hall of Fame score thing.
Right.
But sports immortals, man, I'm really hung up on this because that's reserved for like Roberto Clemente, Honus Wagner, Muhammad Ali, and Mark Andrews.
Can you please help me, Roy? Because you've told me again that we have another sponsored segment here of Boldest Take. The first one was Crud. Is the second one any better?
Probably not.
Hey, Dan. Hey, Stu. This is Bo from Athens. first time, long time, all the other cliche, random crap. My boldest take is that Carson Beck is going to be a Heisman finalist at Miami. I think once he gets out of Mike Bobo's system and if Cristobal can put him in an offense that allows him to flourish and make smart decisions, then he will end up at that ceremony in New York and will ultimately vindicate Mike. And this is coming from a diehard, lifelong Georgia fan.
I'm Juju Gotti, Alex on the cameraman. Welcome back to Unrivaled coverage. We're going to take y'all through a couple of experiences today and, of course, highlight these beautiful, wonderful athletes in this Unrivaled League. Let's go, baby. Don't turn the TV off just yet. Unrivaled is live in effect, baby. No crowd has been like this Unrivaled crowd. Brothers, sisters, every fan in here is screaming to the top of their lungs. Hey! Unrivaled League. Got a lot of haters, but no haters ain't got me. We had to step outside because there's too much action going on inside, man. This is my favorite player in the WNBA history of all time. You feel me? How has this experience been for you guys so far?
It's wonderful to get out here, support women in sports, where we're interacting with the fans who really make sports, who really bring it alive, who really just bring that togetherness and element in sports. And so just to interact with them and how much they love it and how much they support it, that's just been amazing to be a part of.
Let's go, Angel. Let's go, Angel. If I catch a T-shirt, I'm gonna go crazy. Oh, 10 yards away, 10 yards short. The vinyl pulled it out, man. Ain't nothing better than the winning score, bro. That's AKA the Elam ending. That gave these girls a chance to get back in the game, bro. Every fourth quarter gonna be interesting as hell moving forward, man. Salute to the vinyl. Salute to look at all the love in the building, man. It's a packed house. Unrivaled League, it's taking off like a rocket. So I suggest you get your seatbelt and a ticket for yourself. You dig me? Come on, man.
Speaking of Unrivaled, Dan, you know where I have no rivals, our fantasy football contest.
Oh,
you participate
boy.
this week. Diana, did you participate in our fantasy football contest this week presented by Smirnoff? Go to dkng.co/Smirnoff. Every week, Diana, you set your roster from scratch. You don't. What you did last week doesn't matter. Every week, new teams.
Clean
Next week,
slate.
new team. Clean
Yep.
slate. Doesn't matter.
Yep.
I finished 195th place last
You
week.
have
Thank
no
you for
rivals.
asking, Diana.
No
Yes.
rivals.
Some would say I had 194 rivals last week since I finished 195th place. And I say, guess what place I'm in next week?
Right.
First right now. We're all tied for first because it starts anew. Speaking of new, is your hair new? Your hair looks different
Is
today.
your hair new?
Yeah, your hair looks different
New
today,
hair.
doesn't
What
it?
is that
No.
all about?
Go to dkng.co/Smirnoff.
What kind of question is that?
Presented by
Got a haircut,
Smirnoff, the
that's
world's
all.
#1 vodka. Please drink responsibly. Just making conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
Hi, Billy.
Is
Hey,
your
how are you?
hair real or is your
No,
hair
not real.
No,
I
not
didn't
real.
say
Not
that,
real.
Dan.
No.
Just
That's-
ask them.
It
that's
looks
real hair.
different, and
Looks
not everyone
different today,
notices
yeah.
it.
Different
I
haircut,
mean,
yeah.
give Billy some
Just
credit for
asking
noticing.
question.
Yes.
Thank
Something
you,
different.
Billy. Thank you. No new hair. Same hair.
Real?
Hair I've always had on my head. I think I just styled it a little different. It's been a crazy couple hours this week, knowing that not only are we dealing with the playoffs, but we got coaches getting hired, and so just chasing the stories around. So this is the best I can do for you guys today. I hope it's good enough for the show.
All right, same hair, but new coffee mug. What's going on there? What happened?
Well, there's actually a story behind this. So if you see, it says "To my jelly, Diana." Oh, so cute, right? So we got these mugs as a wedding gift. When Kevin and I got married, he's got the peanut butter. It's like I guess he's the peanut butter to my jelly. I don't know. In my house, though, these represent something that he needs or wants. Okay, so he uses these mugs as mental warfare. Most of my mugs are like regular things that say like "best mom ever" and go NFL, whatever it says.
Go
when
NFL is one of the worst
I love that one.
mugs I've
Yeah,
ever
great
had.
mug.
Go
Yeah.
NFL.
I'll have 4.
Great mug. Let her
Did
finish.
someone
Yeah.
get-
The
go-
Best divisional playoff weekend ever.
That cannot be
Somebody-
selling very much.
Somebody has to make me a shirt that just says "Go NFL." That's amazing. That's a good idea. You guys always have the good ideas. So when I saw this morning, he uses this when we're either in a fight or he wants something. So I saw it on the counter today with my coffee already made. He gets up at 4. So as soon as I get up, it's all ready to go. And I know what this is. This is, I want to go to Philadelphia on Sunday for the NFC Championship game. He went last weekend because remember, guys, last time I was with you, I said that Kevin and I were trying to figure out what we wanted to do. I needed to go to the game to do my job. He has season tickets with his family.
Oh, but Dianna, you've got pretty good clout here, do you not? You have some ability to you have some ability around your objectivities to really treat your husband to the time of a lifetime here, but only through your access and connections, correct?
Correct. So I would argue that watching that game on Sunday was actually better at home. So I feel like I did win because according to him, it was very cold. They were crying, all of it. Everything he's wanted and lived for happened on Sunday. But obviously there's more to this. So now we are trying to figure out what we're going to do on Sunday because the senior NFL insider for The Athletic, owned by the New York Times, would like to attend the NFC Championship game. But he feels that he needs to go. So this is the first sign. He has not said it, but I just know what this is, that he's going to come home tonight and think that this puts me in a good mood. I obviously have a very low bar for what I accept in this home, that this gets it done. Like a dumb peanut butter and jelly mug can work me, but he knows. And he worked me on Sunday, and he's going to probably do it again this week.
I think that we should do a relationship show with you and your husband because
I love him.
I believe, from what I can tell, obviously you never know what someone's relationship is, but they seem to have a really, really cool and fun relationship that must make Dianna crazy.
I don't know if it's cool. It's very procedural. It's very logistic. We have 2 kids, obviously, as you know, so we are trying to make this work. We actually say this all the time of like, we just got to get through the day. And then when the babies go to bed, then it's our time. Guess what our time is?
Yeah, nothing.
Me in the basement tweeting,
Yeah,
him upstairs watching Netflix.
Yes.
So
expecting Eagles tickets, though.
Yes, and you working 20 hours a day because the economy must be funded, and it is hard. It is hard work in the information business.
yeah, and asking me if I spoke to Saquon or if Jalen texted me back. You know, like just like actually has the nerve right now to ask some injury updates through this.
But Dianna, explain to the audience, okay? Because I really want people to understand. I think Bills Mafia is as strong a fan base as there can be in terms of passion. And, of course, all fan bases are a little bit crazy. But when you're watching Rams and Eagles, and what is going into that furnace is Jared Verse telling you, I hate those people. They're not the smartest. And they're not. And they know it. They are cave people who really love their team, and they especially love that their meathead coach is beating teams to death with Saquon Barkley's thighs.
They also really love to hate their team.
That's correct.
Yes.
If they lose, they were firing Sirianni the last 5 minutes of the game. So, Dianna, explain to America the Eagles fan. The Eagles fan, after Nick Foles wins MVP of the Super Bowl, beats Tom Brady as the backup quarterback. That Eagles fan.
I've always said that. I always thought this fan base didn't necessarily care about the name on the back of the jersey. They care about the Philadelphia Eagle emblem on the front. That's all they care about. It's just about the Eagles. It doesn't matter who's in that helmet. Even though they love their athletes and they say they do, and you know, when Bryce Harper enters any room, it's like crazy. Whoever their star player is, Saquon right now at this moment, to them, though, it's just about Philadelphia winning no matter what it takes. And the Sirianni argument, especially in this house, has been so up and down because Kevin is a lot like Stu when it comes to him. He's like, the guy wins. I don't care if you think he's not the greatest coach. I don't care if you think Sean McVay could run laps around him when it comes to game management and coaching decisions and locker room and culture and all the great things that come with Sean McVay. He's like, he won the game. That's all that matters. And I kind of think that that's just like a small microcosm of how Eagles fans do it. And it is a religion. I married into it. So I've told you guys on this show before, I grew up, I was a big Yankees fan. We're a baseball family. But the level of this, it's so committed that just think about the situation I have in my house. It is my job to cover football. And I'm actually considering not doing that job because I understand the importance that it is for him to attend this and watch this in person because I know how much it means to him.
This is the part that I want to get into because it is funny to watch this Eagles fan base fall in love with this team. It's different than basketball. It's different. Whatever you view, it's much different than baseball. Football mattering in this town and having the team that's tougher than all the other teams. When we make Mark Wahlberg movies about this tough, gritty city and how its football team represents to the world, the identity that Philadelphia gets from this football team that beats you to death. It's not just a football team that's winning the way Nick Foles did.
They stop the run, they run the ball.
No, it's Saquon Barkley for 200 yards because he's tougher than all of your players, or stronger, or more physically fit. I don't think I understand totally what's in your household. You have to choose you there. Mom has to choose mom and her job there. And I think mom wants to be at that game doing her job. Does she not?
I would choose a babysitter. I mean,
I am always,
I would choose the other game.
Yeah. My babysitter's in Kansas City watching the Bills. That would be my luck. You know, I think for our overall happiness at this point, he attending that game with his father and brothers is probably more important than me talking to AJ Brown after the game. I have to weigh it. But you guys know my style. Like, I'm a boots on the ground kind of reporter. I left ESPN for The Athletic, right? So my career's a little different now. I'm not at the games as much. I'm not at practice the way I used to be. So these opportunities, these big games, give me this chance to then go be around the sport I love and see it in person. So we're weighing this. And I think at the end of the day, as much as I love my career, and you guys know I come on the show and I talk about how committed I am to trying to be the best at this, I think I need my household to be happy in order for the rest of it to fall together. So I think in this moment, I don't want to look back in a few years, and let's just say the Eagles never go back to the NFC Championship game and think, I went to just do another NFC Championship game, my 10th one, and Kev missed out on something with his dad and his brothers and the rest of Philadelphia because everyone will be attending. Because it's not like I have anyone to watch my kids because they'll all be at the game.
Has one of your favorite mugs ever accidentally broke after maybe things didn't go your husband's way?
Things are thrown around in this house, no doubt. You know, it's funny. I saw Big Dom a couple weeks ago, and he said to me, he's such a good guy, and he's like, if you ever need anything, you call me. And I was like, a nanny? And he's like, just call me. And maybe that's who I need to call in this situation.
Well,
right
I
now.
want to ask how many people you actually trust with your kids, but now you've led me to the other question of tell me the stories involved. Not too many details, just objects thrown in the house. Because if you've dated a lot, you told us that you dated a lot of Tommy DeVito's agent. And if that's like, that doesn't seem like something that necessarily has a full harness on its emotions. It feels if that gets angry, that might get a coffee cup thrown across a kitchen.
If it was my mom saying it, she would not say I dated a lot. She would say she was dating every Tommy, Dickie, and Harry, everyone. She couldn't find anyone. And by the way, it's funny. I know we've talked about my mom on the show. You would think my mom would side with me in all this, right? She, to her, it's like, oh, he's got to go to the game. It's like, oh, now you care about the Eagles, Camille? Now you're all in on Philly? When I was marrying him, you weren't too sure. Now it's all about Kevin. But that's just like that old school mentality of if the husband's not happy, no one is around here. Apparently, it's rubbed off on me.
Well, I was going to say what a testament to love you are that you would put your own pride down in the name of. What a lovely thing in the city of brotherly love for you to say him to see that with his family. I can't deny him that for my job, even though I'm the bread earner in this family.
I'm only doing this because this is going to get picked up on Philly radio, and my father-in-law and my brother-in-laws are all listening to that. So I don't want to deal with the wrath that comes with it because I did it once, and boy, did that cause a problem. So this version is just the watered-down version. When I get off the show, I'm going to be calling up, I'm going to the game. Figure it out. The kids are in the driveway in the car seats.
How many people do you trust with the kids? Not enough, right? Like it makes it too hard. I know I can't get my wife to trust trust anyone with the pets.
I don't trust that people will not pull their hair out with my children. It's not. I will put them with anybody if anyone wants to help out. I don't know if anyone actually wants to experience this. They're 3 and 2. They think they're dinosaurs. They bite each other all day long. All they want to do is wrestle each other. So it's not like you can just sit and hang with them and, scroll through TikTok. You have to get down with them and separate them at all times because it's just a constant war zone in my house. So it's not so much about finding someone. It's not so much about them and feeling that motherly connection of, I don't trust anyone out there with my children. No, I need anyone sane that wants to do with this. It should be a punishment for someone, actually.
You're unleashing untrained Eagle fan, Eagle dad descendants into the world, and they want to eat each other's ankles. Okay, I got it. Can you help me understand what we should take from the Ravens-Bills game? Obviously, there's going to be a lot of people talking about a lot of different angles, but the most interesting one to you was blank.
Sean McDermott's preparation and how he got the Bills ready. They were tougher. They were more physical. And while Sean McDermott's definitely gotten a lot of credit this season for putting his team in a good position with a roster that I don't think was really blowing anyone away earlier in the year, I just think they had a great game plan for the Baltimore Ravens when we've seen so many other teams struggle against Baltimore. They think they know how to slow them down. They always say, I've talked to a million defensive coordinators leading up to games where they face the Ravens, and they all say the same thing. They actually executed it, though. So I just thought this was a great game for their head coach.
Are the Jets going to hire the guy that gave up 45 points to the Commanders at home?
Possibly. I think Aaron Glenn is definitely their number one choice. He's in the building right now. I don't think they're going to let this guy out unless he signs this contract or at least agrees to it. It has been a very long search. They've interviewed multiple candidates, as you guys know. They never met with Ben Johnson, but I know from having a couple conversations, it was kind of Mike Vrabel, and then they didn't know what they wanted to do. And then they met with Aaron Glenn, and they're really happy with him. So we'll see if they'll be able to get that done. I expect that to get done.
Let's speed her up. Let's speed her up right now.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go. Give her the music.
Last year, Ben Johnson didn't take any head coaching jobs because he felt like he had unfinished business with the Detroit Lions, and I guess he didn't like any of the jobs. But then he goes inside the division? What about the unfinished business, and why is Chicago so attractive to him?
Growth, self-awareness, all the things that you want from a leader, and that's what he had last year in making that decision to stay in Detroit. And he's learned a lot about losing. He's learned a lot about winning. Now he's going to Chicago because he's got the quarterback. He believes in Caleb Williams. There's a lot of people around the league who think that Caleb Williams is untapped talent. He hasn't had the right coaching, and Ben Johnson's going to bring out the best version of him.
That's the choice, right? If we were going rapid fire and I were to say Ben Johnson, why now? You'd say that quarterback.
Yep. That is the reason. Like, everyone wants to know what would happen. Was the Raiders just a play for him to get a better deal, more money? No, the Raiders were real. Tom Brady was a very convincing owner in trying to get Ben Johnson to go there because they were going to make it the Brady way. But in the end, I think Ben Johnson said, I need the quarterback. Vegas doesn't have it. I don't think the Jacksonville setup is for me. Chicago has the best scenario for me. I'm going there to coach Caleb Williams.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. In terms of attractive quarterback, most of the head coaches out on the market view Caleb Williams as more attractive than Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah, for sure. Young, rookie deal here. And also, there's still really good pieces in Chicago. And, you'll see some fans out there going, but it's Chicago, it's Chicago. Coaches aren't looking at it like that. They're just going, how
C.J. Stroud.
I wanted to hear that.
C.J. Stroud.
Yeah,
so is that a question or an answer?
Yeah.
I don't even know.
I want this to go
rapid
faster.
fire. C.J. Stroud.
Going to get paid a lot of money at some point here.
Very rude.
Had a good game, improved as the season went on. I think they had a really tough season. I think they're going to address a lot of their weaknesses. Offensive line, obviously being the biggest
Ryan
issue.
Day.
Looked very tired.
Yeah, he did.
Sean McDermott.
See, no, Ryan Day is exactly why you need to phrase a question around it. Like, Ryan Day's been trying to get into the pros for several years, but
well done,
the pros have never been there. Hell, like the Ohio State fan base wanted him out. Do you think, with a couple of jobs open, Ryan Day may actually have some bites out there in the pros?
I do not. I think Ryan Day is going to stay at Ohio State. He's happy to be there. They want him there now. And how the tides have turned, because you're right, just a few weeks ago, I was trying to find out who was going to be the next Ohio State coach. But he obviously won this thing out, and they believe in him. I think he'll stay there.
If the
Marcus Freeman was the one I was watching.
Wow.
In the game last night.
Marcus
That was
Freeman.
the one.
We're all watching.
He had an interesting quote about that. He really opened the door to it. He's usually been stronger about the next level. This one was like, come get me.
That, because, Mike, I believe if the Chicago Bears didn't land on Ben Johnson, if Ben Johnson wound up going to the Raiders, I think that there was a world where the Bears are going to try to get Marcus Freeman to at least meet with them. The question would have been, would Marcus be willing to do it? He just got paid by Notre Dame, obviously. He likes being there, but they definitely wanted him.
When you say you were looking at Marcus Freeman, you were also looking at Marcus Freeman the way we all look at Marcus Freeman, or you were just looking at him professionally? You were just looking at him.
Yeah, I was looking at him professionally. I do think some of the camera shots and some of the social media posts about him are really thirsty. Like, there's just like, it's like a lot. Like, every time they show him, it's not just like a regular shot of a coach. It's like, there's a lot of electricity around him. And I think there's some fans out there who enjoy looking at him. Not really my type, though.
If the Bills lose to Kansas City this weekend, is there a possibility Sean McDermott's fired as the Bills head coach?
What?
No.
What? How?
What are you doing?
What, do you just keep him around? He has Josh Allen. What do you mean?
What are you doing?
I'm firing Sean McDermott if he loses.
They've made Josh Allen not reckless. That is a coaching miracle.
Correct.
Let me try this one.
That has been the biggest difference in Josh Allen.
If the Eagles lose, Nick Sirianni fired?
No.
This is all you want to do, Stugotz, is just fire everybody?
Coaching carousel.
Last weekend, yes.
Coaching
this
carousel
weekend,
is
no.
a different game.
Wow, he's gone far enough. Where
I had a lot of people in the league texting with you during the game, guys that aren't playing, obviously. And it was pretty wild right there in the last 5 minutes how many texts I got of Sirianni's going to get fired. And that not to be entertained or laugh at it, but it's at this point.
Okay, what we're doing is stupid. With Ryan Day and Sirianni, what we're doing is stupid, making it from quarter to quarter, the referendums on whether they should be fired
or not. It's insane.
Patrick Mahomes is 16-3 in the playoffs. He's already tied Joe Montana for wins in the playoffs. 16 is a crazy number. They're not that good at offense this year. Your Mahomes thoughts?
Well, Travis Kelce is.
What's a power dynamic in Tennessee? They made on the surface what appears to be an impressive hire, but they've got a kooky front office set up with the head of football operations being a former assistant GM, rising to power almost above Rand Carthon, and now they make this hire. Is this new hire going to be the man to make all the decisions?
Mike Ryan, the only person that's asked me about the Tennessee Titans in a year.
They had the number 1 pick. I'm trying to figure out where Cam Ward's going.
You
no,
reported.
I know. Now it's getting.
No, but Mike Ryan reported exclusively that he happened to know and he knew who the number 1 pick was going to be, and that's not gathered any steam at all.
What? I mean, no. That was only a hypothetical if Lou Riddick went there along with Deion Sanders because of the Shador thing. By the way, Deion Sanders, what's going on with that?
That died down. I told you guys last week when I came on. Look, could it go back? Could Jerry get desperate here and go, oh man, Kellen Moore, nah. Brian Schottenheimer, no. The Brian Schottenheimer thing is a little bizarre to me because obviously he's on the staff there in Dallas. But Jerry let the rest of the coaching staff that was in place with Mike McCarthy go, right? So some of these guys are getting jobs as assistants on other teams now. Some are unemployed. If you're going to hire someone in-house, wouldn't you want to keep the rest of that coaching staff intact? Again, no plan. Dallas had no plan. If there's been any takeaway from all of this, and just from even having conversations around the league, I don't think Jerry Jones believed that Mike McCarthy was really going to walk.
Dude, Jerry Jones is not getting enough crap for this. You got Kellen Moore, you got Quinn in the NFC Championship game. You had Derrick Henry have this great season.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't really address the running back.
They didn't meet with Ben Johnson. They didn't meet with Mike Vrabel. The 2 top dogs, they didn't go after because he hadn't made a decision yet. And I do believe that Jerry thought that he'd be able to work out a deal with Mike McCarthy, which is why they're behind the ball on this.
When it comes to Jerry Jones and however it is the game would pass you by, wouldn't it be in your 80s, just like that?
He should just be an actor full time.
Wow. He's got all the power in Dallas. He's the one running everything, is he not? He's the reason that everything stops with him. Yes? He's got too much ego.
He's the GM. He's got full control. Absolute full control. Just why you're going to see the Kellen Moores and the Brian Schottenheimers get these interviews, because these are the type of these guys have personalities that they understand the owner, right? That's the biggest challenge in working in Dallas, is getting how this is going to work. It's not like any other operation. Just look at the post game. the cameras are around Jerry. They're not even around the head coach. It's going to be like a competition. But if you're cool with that, if you get it, you understand it, Jason Garrett, Mike McCarthy, you can make it work. Make it work.
I'm going to speed you up here in a second with just quick topics, but go ahead, Billy. Ask Dianna something right before I do that.
Is Spags ever going to leave Kansas City, or is he kind of waiting out Andy Reid? Because, like, last year was like the Andy Reid maybe thinking about retirement. This year we haven't heard any of that.
No, you shouldn't. And I spoke to Andy in the summer about it, and I thought he was going to give me more of like, yeah, I've won so much. He is so rejuvenated and energized. Why would you retire too if you've got Patrick Mahomes? So I don't see Andy Reid retiring, on top of the fact that he signed a 5-year contract in the offseason. But for Spags, I think he'll continue to just get shots at head coaching jobs. I just don't know if he'll be able to land one. And I don't know why. I don't know why. I just think he's so valuable and he's so good at being a coordinator, and that's okay.
Dianna, 20 seconds or less on each of these. 5 to close us out. Mike Tomlin.
A great coach.
Dan Campbell.
Heartbroken.
I didn't need 2 seconds or less. I needed 20 seconds or less.
Oh, you want me to pontificate on each of them? Mike Tomlin's going to stay in Pittsburgh. I know there was a little chatter Schefter put out that teams or the Chicago Bears called about a trade possibility. I think that stuff happens a lot more than what we realize. Kevin Warren there, the president of the Chicago Bears, loves Mike Tomlin. So that makes all the sense of the world, but I don't think Mike Tomlin is going anywhere.
Excellent. 20 seconds exactly. Dan Campbell.
Dan Campbell, he's going to have to figure out what he's going to do with the coordinator positions, because he just lost his offensive coordinator. He's most likely losing his defensive coordinator probably today. So I think there's going to be a big shift and perhaps maybe even a step back, just like we saw with the Philadelphia Eagles that year that they won the Super Bowl and they lost both coordinators. Remember that? Jonathan Gannon went to Arizona. Shane Steichen went to the Indianapolis Colts. So I think losing coordinators always is a bigger storyline than you realize.
Tom Brady
has a lot of power in Las Vegas. For an owner, and we criticize owners all the time for getting too involved, this is the first time Tom Brady's doing this ownership thing. And I think we're all giving him a pass because he's Tom Brady, but it's a different beast. It's not playing quarterback. There's a lot more that goes into it, and replicating the way you do it in New England may not be the way in Vegas.
Mark Andrews.
Gosh. He's going to wake up in May sitting by the pool with his kids, just relax and go, oh my God, I cannot believe I dropped that. I can't believe I let that ball go. I think that's one of those situations, those things that lives with you forever, but he's still one of the greats. And it was just surprising, and it stinks for him.
He's not.
CJ Stroud.
He improved at the end of the year. I still think he's a really good quarterback. I think what we saw last year was pretty magical. Obviously, Jaden Daniels came out here in his rookie season here and blew that away. Perhaps the best rookie quarterback performance we've ever seen. But I think CJ is still a really good quarterback. He just needs some protection and another weapon next season.
Dan Campbell.
We already did.
Ryan Day.
We already did CJ Stroud. I mean,
No,
was that
we
a follow-up to
didn't.
CJ Stroud question?
Thank you for providing more detail on where you were going with that.
Let's keep going. More.
See you later, Dianna. Good talking to you. Yes, I'm glad you enjoyed it enough here. I love
NFL.
I want to do that show with your husband. How do I do the relationship show with you two? Because there are unrelenting landmines all around you guys trying to sort this out as his emotions get in the way of your job.
I know. You're right. We don't have a cool relationship. We really love each other and we get each other, but this football stuff it's garbage. It's ruining us. Like, I can't wait for this season to end. It has nothing to do with the pressure of being an insider. I love my job. It's going awesomely. I just need some reprieve. I need to just chill. So let's go. Let's just get to free agency here.
Dianna,
then he goes away.
Good seeing you. Nice seeing you.
Love you guys.
Always nice seeing you. I want to do more with her relationship. There's a lot of funny stuff there. Let's see if we can get her husband
Maybe she
on.
doesn't, though.
Maybe not, but let's see if in the next 2 weeks her husband wants to come on with her. It's time now, belatedly, for Stugotz's weekend observations.
It is time for Stugotz to share his game notes. No one in the media will tell you what happened better than my boy Stu.
Weekend observations, wrong sounder, are brought to you by Miller Lights. Dan, I'm not sure what the end of time will look like, but I think we got a glimpse of it over this past weekend. People sobbing, spilling out their secrets, letting everyone in their life know how much they love them. But Dan, after roughly 12 hours, order was restored and the world was saved. Because Dan, just like that, make no mistake about it, TikTok is back.
That's right.
Did you see the reaction to this?
Threatened to
My
ban
kids were crying.
Threatened to ban it. That's how you win young people. Just give them their sugar back. Pretend like you were going to cancel it and then give it a 75-day reprieve and you can be emperor too.
I told my kids to have a conversation. Talk to one another. Do something. Get your face out of the damn phone.
Lost the hub down here. You don't see me being a baby.
We're back.
No, we're not.
No.
VPNs are, though.
If you ever wondered what Spags dreams about, it's that Texans offensive line. Bad.
Eight sacks.
Bad.
8 sacks, and you guys are going to tell me C.J. Stroud has regressed. That's why I was badgering poor Dianna about C.J. Stroud. Do you realize that's a career?
Twice, yeah.
That's a career high for a quarterback being pass rushed during a game. It's 23 times.
I'm going to institute a fine every time you say pressure up the middle, though. I got it.
Every once in a while, Jared Goff reminds you why Sean McVay traded him.
They should trade for Stafford.
Trade back?
Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Should the Lions trade for Stafford?
If your city has Eminem, you don't let LiAngelo Ball perform at halftime. You don't. Mike, you don't. It always has to be Eminem. LiAngelo Ball.
They might have been saving him for the NFC Championship.
Yeah.
I heard somewhere that he's going to win a Grammy this year.
Was Detroit,
LiAngelo?
Put it on the poll, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Was Detroit saving Eminem for the next game?
To the people in Group 7, stop trying to board my plane with me in Group 1. You're in Group 7, you're in Group 7. I don't know what to tell you. You want to be in Group 1, then buy Group 1. I mean,
Living that Group 1 life, huh?
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I am. I don't, lollygag and come in late and board with all the Group 7 people. I board with Group 1. It's my group.
Well, you're doing something. What airline are you flying here? Because Group 1,
United.
Is it first? Oh, so it's first class. You're Group 1 because you're first class. You're telling everybody you're first class and they're not first class.
Military.
Active?
You're active military? We
Just
don't
put
know
it in a
about
uniform, Dano.
Is this how
my
we're
trick.
learning that you're a spy?
Yeah.
You're revealing to us that for all these years you've been inside the government fighting secret causes on behalf of the military.
When you go in a military uniform, do you think someone's going to dare have the audacity to ask for your ID?
You know what? We've got to do that. We've got to go. We've got to do this. We've got to have Stugotz go to get first class in a military uniform that he bought at La Casa de los Trucos over here on Calle Ocho.
I was going to ask, where is that?
We have to do that. We have to get Stugotz in a Group 1 without paying for Group 1 because he's simply dressed as the military.
Donald Trump getting TikTok banned, only to then take credit for bringing it back.
It's so good.
Donald Trump.
It's great.
The Stugotz is strong in you.
It's just a great move.
Jake Elliott, the rare missed extra point that doesn't come back to haunt you. How about that? He pulled it off. Josh Allen doesn't run into an end zone. He bulldozes his way into an end zone. He does. He never just runs. It's never a glide. It's always, I got to find someone. I'm going to find the contact, and then I'll find the end zone.
He gallops.
He's good. Also, game manager.
I do actually wonder how it must feel to try and tackle him in the cold. He seems hard to tackle.
I mean, imagine tackling Derrick Henry in the cold.
Yeah, him
or
too.
anytime.
Yes, agreed. But I'm just saying I'm used to it, at least with my running backs. A little hard to tackle is kind of the job description. Quarterback, not as much.
Dan, I thought of more names of people in sports and entertainment if they were vegetables. Oh, well, Dan Sprouts. Number 5.
Not Dan Fouts, Dan Sprouts.
Thank you for clarifying. Yeah. Novak Artichokovich. Pretty good. Number 4, Squash Allen. Number 3, Yam Adebayo. It's pretty good. Number 2, Veggie Miller. Number 1, Oprah Winfrey. Here come the Capitals.
It's not an athlete.
I said entertainment.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Veggie Miller.
Come on, that's good. Veggie Jackson? I mean, Mr. October. Veg. Hey, Jimmy Butler. If you put out a Michael Jordan statement and show up to a game in a Michael Jordan jersey, you can't lose by 20 points at home. And not score 20 points by himself. I think he had 18 that night. You can't do it.
The over 20 was plus 300.
Yeah. Sammy Sosa inducted to the Cubs Hall of Fame. It's about time.
Is it?
Slamming Sammy.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've decided, never mind about that whole cheating for 30 years thing. Okay.
If they ever put a statue of Sammy outside Wrigleyville, the bat has to be corked. You agree, right?
Yes.
It should be made of cork.
I think it should be the bat exploding. He'd have a statue unlike any other. What weren't there like gum balls, rubber balls in the bat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
All
spewed all over
chopped
the
up.
field.
Yeah. The Eagles drafting the entire Georgia defense. How'd he play? I got to speed him up here, huh?
Well, can we just go back a second, though, and just make the statue rubber balls just falling all over the field?
Super balls, not gum balls. That would be.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That wouldn't work. I just think about that. Filling your ball with sort of gum ball, rubber balls that, what else how would you describe those? Super balls?
I think that's what they're called, super balls.
Yeah,
right?
super balls.
What about
Yeah.
springs? Why did no one put springs in their bat?
Deep dish pizza isn't food. It's a commitment to feeling terrible in a couple of hours.
But it's so good.
Guess what? If I can't inhale 3 slices in 10 minutes, it's not pizza.
What?
It's not. It's not.
All right, we'll circle back around.
I'm not trying to commit to pizza. I'm trying to eat something delicious and do so quickly. That's what I'm trying to do.
Deep dish is so good.
Yeah. Top 5 things I like to inhale. Number 5, football. Number 4, game 7s. Number 3, 3 slices of pizza. Number 2, a chicken parm. Dan, take a guess what number 1 is.
I don't know.
A heater. Watch out for the Grizz.
It was right there in front of me, and I missed it.
Yeah. I mean, how could you miss it?
My bad.
Yeah. How about the Grizz, though, huh?
Yeah.
Watch out, huh?
Keep an eye on Anthony Edwards at around Valentine's Day.
I mean, Ja Morant should be the MVP, no? They're a different team without him. They're terrible without Ja. They're great with him. Where was I? We had a time? What am I doing?
We've been out of time, but you've got 3 or 4 more pages there.
Just 2. That's a fun. Dan Campbell. Do it without Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. Caleb Williams. You know what Ben Johnson means? It means you've run out of excuses. The guy who's in charge of the defense that gave up 45 points at home to the Commanders is likely going to be the next Jets head coach. I hate them. 45, Commanders, rookie. Stash this away in the Something to Ponder file. Sorry about that, Dan.
No, it was Jared Goff's fault, though, was it not?
Well, they should trade him.
For Stafford.
Yeah. Stash this away in the Something to Ponder file. Who is the bigger Barkley in Philadelphia? Saquon?
Whoa.
Or Charles?
Whoa.
No need to discuss now.
Whoa.
Stash it away for a rainy day. I'm just asking.
Put it on the poll, Juju. Bigger Barkley in Philadelphia, Charles or Saquon?
When you get to the airport, there's nothing like going straight to your gate just to get a lay of the land. If I'm hungry, if I have to go to the bathroom, I don't do any of it. I go straight to where my plane is taking off just to see who's doing what, who's in Group 7, who's in Group 1, you know?
One of the
Little
things
lay of the land.
I love about you traveling is your airport observations. Like the thing, like where clearly you're having just thoughts walking through the airport.
Now imagine me being dressed as a Marine the entire time.
It's great.
I mean,
we have to do it. We have to do
I've
it.
done it. I mean.
We have to get you on a flight and have video with you as you scam your way. I'm sure it's a crime of some sort.
No wait at Nathan's. I mean, I tell you that.
Stugotz wandering around as Sergeant full of just going from trying to get perks at the airport.
I like that name.
Lieutenant Corporal full of It's so good. It's such a good character. We could have a camera follow him through an airport. He would absolutely soak in the applause of having served in the military and possibly still serving in the military while only wearing a costume bought at La Casa de los Trucos.
Chief Spills, otherwise known as Super Bowl 59. I love yelling, "Let him play!" when the refs throw a flag I don't agree with.
Yes.
Jeez, so many flags.
Put it on the poll, Juju. Do you love yelling, "Let him play" when the ref throws a flag?
TikTok's ban was like sex with Rick Pitino. Over before you even knew it happened. What happened there?
It's just the
Pitino
joke at
joke.
Patino's expense. It's just old. It's
Ohio
tired.
State,
It's
do it
tired.
against Michigan. How about that joke?
It's tired. It's just so
That one's
tired.
4 years old.
40% of Ryan Day's losses have come against Michigan.
Yeah.
Think about that.
I
He's
do
70 and 10.
You know, Ohio State, you know what? I'm here for the message. Fire him anyway. Because you're about beating Michigan. And the job is you got to beat Michigan. Fire him today.
Yeah. Le Batard Show. Do it on MLK Day. The L in MLK doesn't stand for lazy. Dan Le Batard starting a business and then saying, "I know nothing about business." Dan, the Stugotz is strong in you. To the guy next to me on the plane who sneezed 8 times and then decided it was a good time to toss on the mask. Go f yourself.
Wow.
I'm sorry, Dan.
No, you're not sorry.
No, I am sorry.
Come on, we're on.
I'm not sorry to him. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's wrong. You don't do that. You don't do it. Not in these days, not in these times. You don't sneeze 8 times without a mask and then put the mask on. Keep the mask on. You're sick.
Brown wave.
Sorry. Sorry about that, Dan. I was yelling at you.
You're not sorry, though. You just
am
cursed.
sorry.
You cursed on the
Well, I don't like that guy. Just annoying. Either Kellen Moore or Dan Quinn will be coaching in the Super Bowl. The Cowboys had both of them in their building. It's pretty bad, man.
The Jerry Jones thing is funny, no?
It's crazy, yeah.
He runs everything. Oh, he ran it right into the ground.
Yeah. Cowboy fans, I'm upset, man. The whole sneezing thing, it got me. Because I'm not feeling good now, Dan. I'm not. Cowboy fans, welcome to hell. And while you're at it, say hello to Art Briles. Dan, those are the weekend observations. I'm
Deep
sorry.
dish is good.
Oh,
Deep
it sucks.
dish is
It's
good.
terrible. It's a commitment.
Joining us now from Meadowlark Media's New York studio, where he's hobnobbing around with another one of those obnoxious liberal elites, Pablo Torre. Chris Hayes is with us. He's the host of All In weeknights on MSNBC, that propaganda outlet for the woke. He's the author of a new book called The Siren's Call. It's not about Trump or politics. It's about attention. And I want to get into some of the inauguration with him because he's written a think piece for the New York Times about how content is king, how, of course, Musk buys talking and Trump rules the world, that content is king now. Attention is the currency of the day. So, Chris, thank you for joining us. And you wrote this because what? Because you realize you, too, are a content merchant, an addict.
I'm both an addict. I'm both a seller and a user. I don't know if you feel the same way, but yes, I am my livelihood is keeping people's attention. I'm also just compulsively online, and even if those are personal dispositions, I feel like we live in an age in which attention is the most important resource. It's the most valuable, and we're watching it play out before our eyes. I mean, yesterday was a spectacle that perfectly illustrated this point. Elon Musk, Donald Trump, like, these guys are where they are for a reason, and a lot of it has to do with how they manipulate attention.
Well, tell me about how you experienced Elon Musk and Bezos and Zuckerberg at the inauguration with better seats than the incoming cabinet, a cabinet that is not unlike the cabinets in many white households, all white.
Well, it was almost too on the nose. There's so many things that Trump does that are on the nose, past on the nose. It was a really striking image. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that before. You had, the head of Google, the head of Apple, the head of Amazon, the head of Facebook, the head of Tesla X. All standing in a line. They're all shot there. And it was pretty funny. I saw someone, I forget who it was, but someone was like, well, it's interesting that when we did his rallies, like the people behind him were like coal miners and like first responders and construction workers. And suddenly he gets elected president. Like they can't really find any coal miners up there on the dais. You can't really find any first responders, but the most powerful billionaires are up there. And I thought, it was an intentional bit of symbolism. It wasn't like a mistake. It wasn't like they were like, oh, where do we seat these guys? Oh, just give them the front row. They were saying something there. Both the people attending, Bezos et al., and Trump and his crew.
But when you examine it from that angle, right, like, of course, it can be dark humor, but the idea of a party running on against elite and big tech, and then to see Bezos, who owns a newspaper as a side toy, not give any kind of endorsement, sit out waiting for this moment. And Zuckerberg also fights for our attention, and Musk tries to outbuy them all while following the president around like a lapdog as if he, wants to buy America while he's at it. Like when you're watching all of that, you're experiencing that how as an American?
As an American, I feel anger, but I also feel a kind of cold sense of clarity. In some ways, I've actually thought that the last few weeks have been usefully clarifying. The interests of these folks are aligned with the interests of Donald Trump. And that they were working very hard to obscure that before, but I think that it's useful for everyone to see it for what it is. It reminds me a little bit of, there's a moment after 9/11, and particularly that first, 2002, 2003, and the run-up to the 2004 election with Bush, where all of these powerful forces in American life aligned with George W. Bush. The Dixie Chicks were blacklisted because they said something disparaging about George W. Bush. And it was clarifying then in that moment to understand the forces arrayed against you. And in the end, no matter how much the people who dissented against George W. Bush were berated, they were proven right in the end. And I don't think that image of those guys standing there in line at that inauguration is going to age very well. In fact, I feel almost certain it won't.
You write in your book, The Siren's Call, we have a country full of megaphones, a crushing wall of sound, the swirling lights of 24/7 casino blinking at us, all part of a system minutely engineered to take our attention away from us for profit. Under these conditions, anything resembling democratic deliberation seems not only impossible, but increasingly absurd, like trying to meditate in a strip club. The next 4 years are bringing what?
Oh, I don't know. I find the total uncertainty liberating. I remember so clearly, this is a really important lesson. I remember first impeachment of Donald Trump, which happens in January and February of 2020. And when it ends in him being acquitted by the United States Senate, there were all these stories about what this year was going to be and how Trump was resurgent. And I remember thinking to myself, I was stressing about travel because it was an election year and I was going to have to go to these primary states. I was thinking about childcare. And of course, COVID hit 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later. Everything I'd stressed about, everything I thought about, all the think pieces, all the stuff about Trump, it completely washed away. None of it mattered. And I've just taken that lesson to heart that we do not know what's coming. You can prepare, you can stick to your principles, you can think about your craft, you can think about what you want to do as a citizen. But I have no idea what these next 4 years are going to be like, and neither is anyone else. And the degree to which I have no idea, I actually find personally liberating.
But you're assuming that the government is going to get ransacked, correct? Are you not assuming?
I don't think it's going to be good, I guess, if that's your question. No, I think this thing, the meme coin, the crypto meme coin, he launched it, a day before becoming president. That people who are hardcore crypto heads, like partisans of crypto, love crypto, think it's the future. They were disparaging it as a blatant, a blatant grift. This is going to be a ransacking, a pillaging, a plundering. It's going to be corrupt. I think the first day and the executive orders he signed confirmed all the worst fears and also made the people who were extending some, sense of good faith look a little silly. It's gonna be bad. Just the question to me is like, how bad, and what it implicates for all of us. But yes, it is not going to be good. The government is not going to be run well. That's one thing I feel confident predicting.
The whole changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America just felt like a complete distraction because of those executive orders. What do you think the worst executive order was signed into law yesterday?
That's a really good question. I'm still, first of all, let me be honest, I'm still sorting through them. I think there's a few. The worst in terms of its intent is the revocation of birthright citizenship, which is a foundational American right. It's plainly in the text of the 14th Amendment. It was put in the text of the 14th Amendment by the second founding generation of this country who came together to write the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments after the bloody Civil War to try to found a multiracial pluralistic democracy.
The naturalized...
To attack that...
I'm sorry. No. I don't want to stop your train of thought. I thought you were done. Please continue.
To attack that is the cornerstone is to attack the foundation of the project of the nation's second founding after the Civil War, which is a multiracial democracy. It is a distinguishing characteristic, birthright citizenship in the U.S. It's one of our finest attributes. He cannot undo it through a piece of paper. It's in the Constitution. But in terms of what that represented, not in terms of its effect, which I hope will be essentially nothing, that was the most insidious.
It was certainly symbolic, but it does face several legal challenges. I don't know how you actually go about enforcing this. One of the reasons, as you mentioned, constitutional. What does this look like?
It's a great question. It should, again, who knows with this Supreme Court. It should get blocked immediately and then challenged and then thrown out. Blatantly unconstitutional. The plain text of the Constitution means what the plain text of the Constitution means. And so in that respect, in terms of the effect it's going to have, I don't think necessarily that was the worst, because I hope, to your point, that it basically gets thrown out and doesn't go into effect. The pardons and commutations for the January 6th folks, including people that assaulted cops, people getting out of prison who had 22 years for seditious conspiracy. I mean, that just says something. It's not just that granting them this clemency itself is bad, though it is. It's the message it communicates about political violence, about his support for political violence, about his encouraging future political violence. That is pretty dangerous stuff that he's playing with.
All right, Chris, objectively, though, okay? Objectively. Explain.
Objectively. I'm always objective, Dan.
Explain to me the difference between Joe Biden pardoning his son and Donald Trump pardoning all of the January 6th people because a Proud Boy here in Miami who got 20-plus years through our legal system is now at home ready for the next time the violence might be needed. Can you explain objectively the difference between those two pardons? Because both pardons seem wrong.
Yeah, I don't think I don't support the Hunter Biden pardon. I think it was the wrong thing to do. I think the difference is in the details of the cases. I mean, it should be really clear. Hunter Biden was prosecuted for what's called felon in possession, which is extremely rare case. I mean, we're talking about a handful of cases, despite the fact there are tens, hundreds of thousands, millions of addicts across the country. Basically, he had a gun and he said he wasn't a drug addict when he got it, but he was a drug addict. There are former federal prosecutors, including former Republican congressmen, who say this thing is never, ever, ever charged. The only reason that he was charged was because his name was Hunter Biden. He was on the wrong side of essentially presidential privilege, and that would be the justification for that pardon. I still think because he's your son and you're the president, you shouldn't do it. But on the merits, it was just as an empirical matter, an extremely, extremely, extremely rare form of prosecution that was brought to bear on him. And I think it's inarguably it's because of what his last name was. Now, that said, look, if they had gone through and they had taken a class of 300 or 400 of those folks convicted for January 6th who never assaulted a cop, never celebrated what they did, walked into the building and walked out, possibly that's more defensible. They did not do that. This was a full jailbreak. And in fact, J.D. Vance, just days before they did it, said, obviously, you shouldn't give clemency to people that assaulted police officers. People that assaulted police officers got sprung yesterday. I mean, we've got the tape. Like, you could look at them bashing in the heads of cops, and now they're walking the streets. Like, that is on a completely different level than anything that happened in terms of Biden pardons.
I want your attention. I need your attention. Here is how I mastered my own. It's the opinion guest essay he has written for the New York Times. Why did you write it? You're being introspective during dark times about being complicit to feeding this machine, you whore?
Well, I think that, look, I think like all of us in this age, I wrestle with being inside my own head, you know? I mean, I don't know if you guys are this way. If you walk around all day with podcasts in your ears, if you leave your car if you leave your phone in the car and you stop and double park and you run to a Starbucks and you're getting a cup of coffee and you reach for the phone and it's not there, then you have this moment of panic. You're like, oh, what's that moment of panic? Like, why has it become harder and harder to live with our own thoughts, to be alone with ourselves? And the reason is we are being conditioned away from it. And the more we're conditioned away from it, the more difficult it is to be with our own thoughts. But being with our own thoughts is the stuff of life. It's all we got. We don't get to outrun our own head. So for me, the project of, this book and the project I'm trying to work through is, what are we running from? Like, how do we get back to being okay with our own thoughts? How can I go for a 20-minute walk and just, be in my brain and not need some escape?
Dan, where was the comma in your question? Was it
You
comma
called him
you
a
whore?
whore.
Or is it that you're whoring this? Also, it was a great deflection because I believe you called an essay
I just
an
ignored
essay.
it.
C.J. Stroud.
I did call it an essay, yes. Brown wave.
But what happened to the comma? You called him a whore.
I did call him a whore. He knows what I'm talking about. Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show, Juju. Being with your own thoughts. Is it the stuff of life? No, I think he's I think the reason.
Put it on the poll. Dangerous game, Dana.
I think the reason that he's written this think piece is because he understands that in some ways the liberal media elite was outplayed by a group of people who realized earlier than the mainstream media did that they were buying up people right and left. And this is where not just he gets turned around, I get turned around as well. And I'm on the losing side of a fight where that particular oaf took out journalism. That thing ended up just wandering around yelling fake news, and because he's a reality TV contestant, he now gets immunity. He gets immunity all over the place, and all of our judges, so that this guy, a journalist, is on here saying, yeah, it's unconstitutional, but who knows what the Supreme Court is going to do? Like, to take a hatchet to America like that? Like, how the hell is this the first day?
It's pretty tough. I mean, look, yesterday was... I was watching it as a professional, so there's a certain amount of like regulation that one undertakes, but it was tough to watch. I'm not going to joke. I mean, I'm not going to deny it or joke about it. And look, this is I can't offer any comforting words about like who wins in the end. I think that I don't know who wins in the end.
It's always Mahomes.
Look, I wish we had Mahomes. I don't know. I don't know who our Mahomes is. We're biding our time the regular season and just waiting to bust it out in the playoffs. But I don't know. I hope we have our own Mahomes.
How do you feel about deep dish pizza?
Mm-hmm.
It's a great question. I love it. I think it's one of those things that that's maybe a once or twice a year thing. Like I feel about it the way I feel about turkey. Like when it in the right context, in the right place and time, it's delicious. Do I want a deep dish pizza, multiple nights a week? It's no.
It's a commitment.
Deep dish pizza.
Right.
It's a commitment, and it is a great thing to savor when you're doing it. But like you're not gonna run up on a deep dish pizza a few times a week.
No, but once a week.
No.
Once a week is really pushing it.
That's a bad idea.
It's aggressive.
Are you would you go once a week?
I
You
can't
would go
get
once
no,
a week.
I
deep
can,
dish?
look.
Would you?
I would be 600 pounds if I lived in Chicago. 600 pounds
because of the deep
This
dish.
show
love.
would be my 600-pound life if I lived. Yes, because yes, it's like 3 pizzas on top of each other. Like, why wouldn't I want 3 pizzas on top of each other? Why wouldn't I want more? What's happening here with this gold chain?
It's brass. It's $60.
That's a fine.
Okay. Is it a fine? Then I didn't know that it was.
If my wife got it for me. You know, I was born in the Bronx in 1979, so I'm just as I age, I'm just aging back into my roots.
Does she
Christopher
love you?
Wilfredo Hayes. Does my wife love me? She does love me.
A brass necklace?
That's why I got a $60 brass chain.
That is a killer one question to ask in an interview, Billy. Thank you for
I'm
your.
going to tell her you said that. You're going to hear from her.
Thank you for.
You're not getting a brass chain.
We appreciate you being on Maiden Voyage. Good talking to you, Chris. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, fellas.
The Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Stugotz, there are a couple of things that I wanted to talk to you about that we did not get to earlier in the show because we were just wandering around. And Xavier Lucas has entered the transfer portal, or he has come to the University of Miami through a portal that his attorney is arguing does not exist. Just
Correct.
so I can get this
Like a
right.
secret portal?
I want him.
Correct. Here's how the appeal went.
I love a secret
Here's
portal.
how the appeal went. Wisconsin's like, well, we're not going to let you into the transfer portal, and guess what? The transfer portal is closed up now, so you can't go. And Xavier Lucas and his representatives were like, the transfer portal doesn't actually exist, and the NCAA was like, you got us there, pal. We didn't actually know.
How that happened.
Anyone would figure this thing out, that it's not actually. My bad.
Yes, well, what I loved about it, it bypassed all of the other ways that these are announced. And once I got involved and read, his attorney said, and then I just saw the NCAA backpedaling from, we don't have any actual power here. We like to complain about things and pretend like we're making the rules, but we're not allowed. We don't have any jurisdiction here.
No, and look, the Big Ten, especially in its statement, and Wisconsin have used a lot of big words, but it's all flash paper because they've already lost in all the meaningful places. Essentially, what they're only doing with these statements, very strongly worded, is begging the NCAA to get safe harbor status from Congress. It's basically a press release that says, Congress save us so our illegal cartel can continue going with impunity because we just lose case after case after case. The argument is he signed a document committing to us for 2 years, not a full contract, but we get to keep him here. They're arguing we get to keep him here and play for us. We get to force him because we're going to pay him to. That, quite honestly, is a step away from slavery. Like what they were trying to actually execute in the arguments that they were making, which, again, they lost everywhere. And they're trying to win this in the court of public opinion, but you have to pay attention to what these statements don't actually say. What it is it's a sad, pathetic attempt for a conference and several programs within that conference that have gotten away with skirting the rules all the time and are once again upset that they just can't poach local kids like they used to. So they lost already, and now they're sore losers just begging for Congress to bail them out.
Let me stop you for a second because we just got done, Stugotz. This is a reason for celebration, and we can also speak honestly at the greed and the churning of bodies that is making profit out of football on the professionalization of what we watched last night, which is Ohio State beats Notre Dame. Everyone's riveted, and the last Chiefs game is the biggest number in the history of ESPN. Goodell comes out and says 18 games, and we're now playing 15 and we're playing 16. Like that's those records up there when Notre Dame and Ohio State are playing are 14-1 and 13-2. That's a lot of games being played, and we just keep throwing more and more into it as Saban makes a lot of money while saying X, Y, and Z on NIL while being a paid lobbyist on behalf of I will protect saintly football. I'm Saint Nick from Alabama. And the business of it is such that Cam Ward is now worth about 6 or 7 times what he was just paid in one season, and Leonard Hamilton has his players boycotting games and a lawsuit because they want their $1.5 million. And Mike Ryan is saying, and this is when a discussion like this goes flammable, when you turn this amateurism this promptly into just greed, capitalism, it's going to get crazy. The left tackle's about to cost $10 million, and if he's protecting Cam Ward, you're going to get crazy. Mike Ryan says a step away from slavery. And once you say slavery, you lose just about everybody. A step away from slavery.
I own your rights. I tell you where to work, even though you don't want to actually work there. You tell me what it's a step away from.
It's what's happening with business. And, of course, they're going to try and get the shackles on the freedom. It's been the problem. That you don't understand what a great, quiet secret this was that we all kept together on the idea of, like, yeah, just churn through their bodies for profit and everyone will make the money. It'll eventually be the ACC and all the guys in the media, or all the guys in the press box in their orange jackets, but then the television executives will steal it from the bowl executives, because the bowl executives had this grift on the download quiet for 25 years, running a straight-up crime organization, a step away from slavery. Like, they've been doing it. It was just all agreed upon. The terms, we all agreed, yeah, I'll do rah-rah on Saturdays and it'll feel good, and I won't pay attention that they're paying Ricky Williams with a briefcase full of watches. Like, the watch.
So the ones making the most noise are the ones that got away with it before, and they don't like it. And that includes Nick Saban, who said one roster's spending $30 million and the other one's spending $3 million. That's not sustainable. Is it, Nick? Is it? Because I guess you were one of those rosters that were just paying $3 million back when everybody was paying $0. Also, what's unsustainable is you being the highest paid employee in the state of Alabama. That's what's unsustainable. But you never hear him complain about the money that the coaches are making.
Why are we surprised that the old school coaches don't like the new system? Of course they don't like it. They've been stripped of all their power.
Yeah, they got unprecedented power, and they got to abuse a system, and they used to turn their nose at people and think and get to fool their fan bases and people nationwide that they were doing it the right, clean way. It's it's a lot of loser talk too, because there used to be an honor amongst thieves. But when you got Nick Saban out there in the Big Ten doing what it did, it's kind of pathetic.
Jessica has popped into the call here, Stugotz. I was looking forward to her being here today. She was at the game. I was looking forward to crowning her the queen of all of college football as a very ardent Notre Dame supporter. And then they come out last night and the first drive, exactly how you want Notre Dame to play and start that game. And then Ohio State just sort of happened. The next, 3 methodical drives down the field, no real pressure on the quarterback, converting every third down. And then the game gets away from Notre Dame. How was it, Jessica? I'm sorry. I am sorry for your pain. It was a great Notre Dame football season, and I wanted that game to be closer earlier because once Ohio State got carried away, they proved over the last month that they were better than everyone else in college football.
Yeah, but we'll always have that opening drive, Dan. What a beautiful drive it was. I've never seen a drive like that. I mean, Pacific Coast Highway. I don't know. The other scenic American drives, nothing like an 18-play, 75-yard drive, 9.5 minutes. Your quarterback's puking and rallying. I loved it.
It was exactly the way the game needed to start. It needed to start. It just had to stay there the entire rest of the game.
Herb Street said, for them to have a chance in this game, they need to run him about like 15, 20 times in this game. And the first drive, he runs 9 times and is puking afterwards. The only way that
it was like the Ravens-Steelers wild card game, but like Lamar Jackson was on the team that I was rooting for once. I'm like, oh, they're going to keep running him. Okay, sure, it's working.
Were you okay with possibly hospitalizing Riley Leonard if it meant you got more drives like that?
He was okay with it. I mean, I think he would have definitely taken. He was so sad after the game. That made me sad. Seeing him and Jack Kaiser, who's been at Notre Dame for 6 seasons, after the game was sad. But like you said, Dan, like Ohio State, they were the best team in college football all season, even though they lost some games and had some really bad moments and some bad games. Like, they were better than Notre Dame. So I think Notre Dame really lost this game in the second quarter. Ohio State really won this game in the second quarter.
Oh, but there's no shame, though, in the fact that over the last month of the season, like since December 21st, Ohio State beat 2 of the 3 best SEC teams, beat Oregon, the number 1 team in the country, and then beat a 1-loss Notre Dame team. And I think all of the wins were by double digits. Like,
yeah,
I don't know how you argue with that. Is a steamrolling we haven't seen over 4 games at the end of the season since LSU did it.
Yeah, it's like very different than what college football fans are used to, too. I mean, I've seen all these arguments about like devaluing the regular season. I'm not saying like the 12-team playoff is better or worse, but it is just different than what fans are used to. Like to have a team, that lost twice in the regular season go on a run like this and win the national championship is different. But you can't say that they didn't deserve it. You can't say they're not the best team in college football. They've beaten like 4 of the top 10 teams in the final AP poll just like in the last month. Like they're obviously stand out amongst a crowd of really good teams. And, unfortunately, I'm a Notre Dame fan, and Notre Dame was a really good team this year. They just weren't as good as Ohio State. And I think, it's a bummer. And obviously it got close late in the game, so there's like a little bit of hope. But at the end of the day, Ohio State was just, played a better full game, a better, more complete game. And so, yeah, they came away with the win. Much deserved, though, I think.
Jess, I know I'm playing the result a little bit because the field goal was doinked, and the miss actually did loom large there as it was potentially a 10-point game. It could have still been a 1-score game, but I was surprised that Notre Dame decided to kick it at that moment. Were you?
Yeah, I was very surprised. That was the sort of in-game decision-making that went I kind of at this point in like the 3 years of Marcus Freeman, I kind of know when he's going to go for it, when he's not going to go for it. I was surprised, and I saw that, the math said it was a toss-up. It's basically you're 4 or 9 from like, the 9-yard line. The chances of scoring a touchdown on 4th and 9, very slim. The chance of making the field goal much higher, but you're only cutting it from a 2-possession game to a 2-possession game. So it is a toss-up at that point. I understand his explanation of it. I think that, obviously, that's a kick that Mitch Jeter makes most of the time. Like he was hurt during the season, and so he wasn't a very accurate kicker. But in the postseason, he's been very, very good. He's made much longer field goals than that. So definitely the doink looms large. However, I understand the decision. Either way, it's a really tough spot. It's probably not what I would have wanted them to decide to do. But ultimately, yeah, it looks a lot worse because you missed a chip shot field goal there.
Juju, put it on the poll, please. Does the doink loom large?
It always does. Am I wrong to not care about Riley Leonard's disappointment after the game last night? Like, I understand the other guys, they poured 5 or 6 years into Notre Dame. He poured 1. Like, he was lucky to have that opportunity. I don't care what Riley Leonard felt like after the game. Sorry.
It's okay if you don't care about no one's making you care about Riley Leonard. You can care about whatever you want to care about. That's fine.
Put it on the poll.
I think Notre Dame fans care about it, but you don't have to care about it.
Put it on the poll. Does Stugotz have to care about Riley Leonard?
Why would you have to care?
You were close to getting me there. You really were. The tears. He was upset. Then you told me the other guy put in 6 years.
But Jess, I do think, Jess, I think people want to know how you felt. Do you immediately go to perspective? Great season. Oh my God, Ohio State is overwhelming, or does it? I mean, you had certainly after that first drive, you must have been like, oh, maybe.
I mean, yeah, like the first drive was great, and I was like, this is a good start. But going into the game, I think I was pretty realistic about it. Like it had to be a low-scoring game for Notre Dame to win. I think it was a difficult test for Notre Dame. I predicted Ohio State would win, so I wasn't like expecting Notre Dame to pull one off. I hoped that they would, but. Yeah, I mean, honestly, to be honest, I know you guys want my tears. I understand this isn't fun for anyone to have perspective the day after losing a national championship game. But I had a really fun weekend. I got the media gift was this nice Nike fleece crew neck. I got a Perry the Pylon stuffed animal.
That's all that really matters.
A lot of my
Wow.
I got to be on the field before a national championship
Feels
game
like you won.
and see the end of this amazing season come to its conclusion. It's been a really fun run, and I hope Notre Dame's back next year. I think there's so much young talent on this team. Obviously, Riley Leonard's gone, and CJ Carr will probably start at quarterback next year, and he hasn't played before. He's a underclassman right now, but there's a lot to look forward to if you're a Notre Dame fan. And the last 3 games that they won were some of the most fun games Notre Dame's won in 30 years. So it's hard not to have that perspective, right? I didn't expect this team going into the season. We all had high expectations for Ohio State. This roster cost a ton of money. They did so well in the transfer portal, and they're always a great team. They're always in the hunt for the playoff. They're always in the hunt for the Big Ten championship. That wasn't how I really felt about Notre Dame going into the season. I thought this would be a really good Notre Dame team, and then some attrition started happening. They obviously lost to NIU, and I thought okay, this is a above average Notre Dame team, but
I don't expect them to play in the national championship game. Obviously, I was wrong. This is a well above average Notre Dame team, and they're the second best team in the country when all is said and done. So, I don't feel like this is like team of destiny stuff missing out on a championship.
We're out of time. I need to know the name of that thing. What is that toy that you got there
Harry.
that makes it all right? It makes everything all
Big
right.
winner.
Big
Harry
winner. Look at that.
Pylon. Yep.
Look at there. That's all you need in times of soothing. There it is. They
My
give her a
friend.
toy and everything is fine.
This episode of the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is presented by Venmo.
The block spot on Twitter, on X, writes that Ohio State beat Oregon by 20, Texas by 14, Penn State by 7, Notre Dame by 11, Indiana by 23, Tennessee by 25. That's 1, 3, 3, 5, 5, 7. And then calls it the most dominant season in college football history. With 2 losses. Certainly the one the one I've seen that has the most losses, that is also the most dominant, I'd be willing to give you. I believe that LSU team that had Joe Burrow on it and Jamar Chase and had a bunch of – didn't they also have a bunch of first-rounders on defense?
They also had Justin Jefferson and Devin White and Greedy Williams.
Yeah, they were pretty good for a while, that team. Ohio State did trail for just 6 minutes the entire college football playoff, though. 6 minutes total. Juju Gotti is with us. You saw some of his work. There will be more from Unrivaled. Juju, it was really nice to see those women have a real appreciation that your fandom seems to go back from before it was popular to be their fan.
Yes, sir. You feel me? And salute. I'm glad to be here. But yeah, man, I've been supporting these ladies for a while now, and it's beautiful to see that their work is finally being rewarded. You feel me? Especially like Brittany Griner getting in that trouble overseas because she has to make money during this time of the year and missing out on her family. And this is Unrivaled League is giving these ladies a great opportunity to stay home, keep their family. They got daycare facilities. They got makeup. They got everything in that facility. So I'm so happy and honored to be even like an inch involved the Unrivaled League.
I should tell people that Skipper is one of the part owner investors in that league, and I went out there and saw Juju this weekend over by the airport. You were surprised that a facility has sort of grown out of nowhere, right? You're not it's right. A weird part of Miami to have a professional sports league.
Yes, sir. It was. I thought I was somewhere ducked off. You feel me? And it was right around the corner from the. I don't even want to call it just a gym because it's like a fairground almost, where you got attractions outside. You can shoot your own hoops. You can do so many activities if you have like kids with you. It's just all around a great place to be. And I urge everyone to go check it out at least once this year.
I would tell the audience as well that when Juju says getting in that trouble overseas, that's doing a little bit of work on a lot of details that Brittany Griner found herself in a Russian prison and then was swapped for a known terrorist during difficult. That's doing a lot of work, getting in that trouble overseas. What do you have for us on the polls today, Juju? Do we have any updates that are worth covering?
Yes, sir. And speaking of Brittany Griner right quick, she's testing free agency for the first time in her career. So look out. You dig me? First poll. Should Ohio State fire Ryan Day anyway? 78% of the audience says yes.
You can't lose to Michigan.
I love it.
You can't lose to Michigan when it's the most dominant football team of all time.
And speaking of Ryan Day, I don't know if this was caught on TV. I was blessed and fortunate to go to the game last night. In the fourth quarter, they put Lou Holtz on the screen. And you would have thought they put Satan himself up there because I heard so many boos. I was on the Ohio State side, of course, but wow, that was amazingly funny. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life because he's so old. Salute to my boy Lou Holtz, though.
Lou Holtz said before the game that OSU has the talent, but Notre Dame had the heart, the culture, and the D. He predicted that Notre Dame would win simply because they're Notre Dame. I think a lot of people enjoyed Notre Dame losing just because they're Notre Dame.
Yep. Hey, yo. Number 2, hey, Mark Andrews, can you meet the media afterwards? 54% of the audience said yes.
I'm good. I'm glad we got to the bottom of that.
Straight to the
guy fumbles, drop for his life, is going to be remembered by Bill Buckner. Hey, get out there in front of the media, jackass. Get out there and talk about your pain. Just sit in front.
It was so sad. That was so sad.
So
But
just to be clear, the majority of the audience says, "Hey, Mark Andrews, go be a professional. Give us your heartbreak so we can see your tears." All right.
Yep. The same way they wanted Jessica tears, but you can't get them, man.
You can't get 'em.
We got real adults around here, man. Third poll. Who has been better for the last 25 years? The Steelers or the Ravens?
Oh, this is a big one.
65% of the audience says the Ravens.
Ooh,
Wow.
The Steelers have won more championships. Interesting. Right. The audience surprises me there. An upset.
Hell yeah. Next poll, bigger Barkley in Philadelphia, Saquon or Charles?
Come on, don't get disrespectful here. Don't be disrespectful.
Salute to Sir Charles. Saquon took it 55% to 45%.
No, you disrespectful people. No. You prisoners of the moment. No.
Hey, man, the audience has spoken.
Those kids.
Salute to the audience.
No, not salute to the audience. Those
generational, man.
Those disrespectful kids. Barkley's 70-year-old peers aren't on X.
Look, salute to some of the audience. Patrick Loomis, Dust Dye, Barry Lieberman, Mitchell Carter, Evan Clark. We all see you, Cloud Feet, and all the other people. Just a quick shout out to the audience. Next poll, were the Lions saving Eminem for the NFC Championship? 95% of the audience says yes. And $2 to me because I put weir instead of were. Venmo me.
A big, you got to know. We're not Venmoing you, Juju. You got to Venmo. You've got to Venmo us. This is the entire scam everyone's running around here. No one is still respecting the Venmo fine bucket. We're gonna need to get some enforcer around here to take care of this. Do we have any more polls?
Yes, the last poll: should the Lions trade for Stafford? 66% of the audience says yes.
It's a great question.
Audience is right.
Joker of the week. Do we have a Joker of the week here? Do you have anything special lined up for anybody? This is now Juju doesn't do a lot of judging. He does a lot of saluting. He wants sports celebrated. He's about sports positivity. But every once in a while, someone's behavior is malodorous enough that even Juju will call that person a Joker of the week. So what do we have, Juju?
Yes. The Joker of this week, unfortunately. Congratulations, brother, as well. But Ben Johnson for trusting Jameson Williams to make a throw in the fourth quarter down 10 points. Off his back foot, by the way. Like, sir, I don't know who or what you were doing in the locker room at halftime, but it wasn't plotting perfectly. So salute to brother Ben Johnson. Congratulations for your job. But, man, you broke the hearts of a lot of people that love Detroit in that instance. So
you can't.
Get well soon, brother.
You can't trust Jameson's judgment. I think it's fair to say that in times of crisis, we just need to be careful about the Jameson judgment. I don't think that's slander to say that. Jameson's got enough judgment impairment that in that spot, I don't want him throwing the football.
Did you see him hunching the ground? He put 2 pumps.
Yes, he did.
He was 1 pump away from a flag.
Juju, good seeing you. Talk to you tomorrow.
Yes, sir.